Oh, Jesus.
Let's talk about Raw.
Let's just move on to Raw.
Let's just bypass Raw. All right. Raw was a very boring show with a great main event. When I say a boring show, I mean Randy Orton came out for a promo.
Oh, come on.
It
was boring, but it was only about 8 minutes. Which is a huge improvement.
His boring promos this year are much less boring than his boring promos of years past.
That's true.
Crowd was chanting for CM Punk all night long. Talking about the Chamber match and asked how many times he had to beat John Cena and Daniel Bryan. Vowed to beat Batista, win the Chamber, and then beat Batista, who he called a jacked up freak at WrestleMania. Said he was the main attraction of Monday Night Raw, and out came the Helmsleys. And they were baby faces this week because they switch all the time, and that makes it harder to care about them one way or the other.
I just had a heaving sigh.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley had the temerity to accuse Randy Orton of coming out and saying the same things every week. Not that it's not true, but Hunter said this. So yeah, they were not friends, and they said Orton was going to have singles matches against each of the other 5 guys in the Chamber over the coming weeks. So tonight he would face Bryan, and if Bryan won, they might consider Bryan to be the face of the WWE. And Hunter led the crowd in yes chants. So a couple things.
Oh, God, you go ahead.
First of all, the Orton, Hunter, Bryan face of the WWE storyline has been going on virtually unchanged since SummerSlam.
And it still sucks.
Still sucks.
It's not like Austin McMahon.
No. 2, and I know this is not a revelation either, but the whole point of this feud is not, nor has it ever been, who is the better man. The point of the feud is, who do the Helmsleys like better and who will they screw? And that's stupid.
It isn't even really... Listen, if the storyline was, we want the face of the company to be so-and-so, and so we are going to screw everybody else to make sure this person is the champion, which is kind of what they've done, but it's more, it comes across on TV like we're in charge, so the belt really means nothing because nobody wins or loses it unless we decided they should be the champion. If I never have to hear that again as long as I live in my pro wrestling, I'll die a happy man. I am so sick and tired of this concept of we don't know if you should be the face, so guess what? Someone else may be the face soon. It's like, really? So, what if Daniel Bryan can't ever beat Randy Orton? Oh, well, that'll never happen because they just decide who's going to be the champ. It's such a stupid storyline. I'm sick of it. Sick of it!
It makes it really phony.
Yes!
It does. Yes.
You know what I mean? I mean, they can just pick and choose whoever they want. It doesn't matter how talented you are in the ring. It doesn't matter if you can beat A, B, or C. It's just whoever they
So
pick.
why the hell do we have a championship? Why do we have any of this?
It's a great question.
It's really... They don't. I mean, they do, but the real championship is the face of the WWE. There's also a man who carries a belt. That's less important. And it all sucks.
Disgusted. Especially since I was waiting so long for them to unify the goddamn title. And then they unify it, and what do they do with it? It's a toy that they give to their favorite guy. That's not good pro wrestling.
Rey Mysterio, Kofi Kingston, and Big E Langston against the Shield. It was not very long. Big E made a fiery comeback. A little too fiery.
Big E's got a...
Speaking of
how many guys
down,
he nearly killed with his just run him over spot? I think the spot is awesome, but...
Yeah, he nearly killed Roman. Roman ended up bleeding near the eye.
He ran someone over like 2 weeks ago. Someone else nearly killed him.
Yeah. And Roman cut him off and hit the Superman punch. He was about to hit a spear, but Dean tagged himself in and pinned Big E with a headlock driver. And why is Big E suddenly jobbing all the time?
Well, because they're going to be doing a unification match.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. What's so funny?
So job him out so he can face somebody else who has a title.
Dean has a title.
Oh, my bad. I got you. Yeah. That makes total sense.
But still...
They don't have to beat Big E all the time. Though.
Yeah, you could have other guys, have Dean and Ambrose take turns beating other men, or Dean and Ambrose.
Well,
Ambrose and Langston.
The idea here was that A, Dean pinned Big E, so one champion pinned the other, and B, it was the stolen blind tag pin to further set up dissension between the Shield. They accomplished two things in one match.
But they could have pinned 2 other guys.
I don't think Big E should be losing.
Absolutely.
That's the least of our worries, everybody.
That may be true. That may be true. So Dean and Roman bickered afterwards. Rollins made peace again. And the Wyatts appeared on the screen for a promo. Luke Harper is getting to talk now. And I guess technically Eric Rowan is too, but all he says is run.
I like Luke Harper's promos. He says just enough.
Yep.
But he terrifies you.
He said Bray had always been their king. They showed tweets from Daniel Bryan and the Seahawks congratulating each other. Yeah.
He was retweeted by the NFL Twitter.
Not you.
Not me.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan.
I know.
Daniel Bryan is a bigger star.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if Daniel Bryan watched the Super Bowl, though.
He did.
He did.
Oh, okay.
Bad News Barrett appeared. He's confirmed that the Super Bowl was the most watched event in U.S. television history. But the bad news for the fans is that they were fat and they would die before the game next year.
Yes, Craig. He shouldn't be telling the truth.
No, his podium that you bitched about for weeks and months.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much it cost to set it up.
I didn't say it cost a lot of money.
You did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you did.
Did I say it cost a lot of money?
Immediately. You couldn't believe they were wasting all these thousands of dollars.
Hey, you know what? Listen, geeks.
Hold on before you say that.
When's the last time you went to a fabric store?
Oh, yesterday.
You know how much fabric it costs to cover a thing that goes 25 feet in the air? It's a lot of fabric.
For those of you who are asking, this is why I don't even bother arguing with Brian
That shit
anymore.
ain't cheap.
Did you ever read the text that I sent you? That his quote-unquote podium,
I know what his podium is. It's a scissor lift.
a scissor lift they used to put the lighting rack up.
Sure.
It's there because they're putting up the lighting rack.
But the fabric and the mic and all that other stuff, shut up. Whether it's expensive or not, why is he on a giant scissor lift?
So you can see him.
I can fucking see him wherever he's at. It's a television show.
Maybe you should get a scissor lift.
If I
That
had one,
is a
I would
great
be
idea.
using it right now.
That was awesome.
My ceiling is too low up here.
You will have to take the floor out of this. What are we above right now? Living room? Perfect.
No, the entryway.
Garage.
The entryway?
You're
Are we?
right above the garage.
We're above the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can work.
Awesome. Cut a hole in the floor, put the scissor lift in the garage, climb in, zip up, and do the show.
It would be awesome if I ever do a web show, I will come up through the floor on my scissor lift, and then I will tell everyone that we have bad news and review Impact, and then I'll go on the scissor lift back down as the show ends. That's a good idea.
All right.
Now, will you have a soapbox on top of the scissor lift?
My soapbox is between my ears, homie.
Okay. What?
Did he just call himself a blockhead?
I think so.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I remember one time we were driving somewhere with my buddy Yeti, and we were lost. But I told him which way to go because I could tell which way north was.
Sure.
And I explained to him that I had a bird's brain because of my navigational abilities. Nearly died. Nearly crashed the car and died. He laughed so hard. What a jerk.
so back to Raw. Wade had this bad news, and then suddenly Jerry Lawler gets to his feet and said the bad news for Wade was that he might not be on the show next week.
Stupid.
Then they played Lawler's music, and he sat down. What? Is Jerry Lawler going to beat up Wade Barrett? That seems bad. That is bad news.
I have a little news on this, at least.
Oh, here we go.
What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
What do you say, Craig?
No, I just tell your story.
I want to hear what you have to say about this.
I just tell your story. I might have got ahead of myself. So
I think you got ahead of yourself.
All right. Tell your story.
All right, this is from somebody there. The segment with Barrett and Lawler didn't get over like it was scripted to be.
You don't say.
That's a fact. Not sure if the script was worded wrong or if someone forgot their lines, but February is American Healthy Heart Month, and the idea was Barrett bashes people about eating bad and having heart attacks, and Jerry defends them because he had a heart attack.
Shouldn't Lawler be the one telling people to eat healthier so you don't die like he did?
Well, he's trying to, I don't know. This didn't work.
No. That actually, the quote-unquote right idea actually sounds worse.
Well, maybe they'll do another attempt next Monday.
Jesus, this company.
Heart History Month.
They can get Brodus to do
Lawler
this.
is the spokesman.
Do you know me? I fucking died on live TV. Let me tell you about heart health.
He's proud of it. He survived.
He did survive.
Now, what were you going to say,
He did
Craig?
beat death.
About my news?
It doesn't matter.
Kick your ass.
Bring a lunch. Mostly so I could eat.
I was going to say, what the fuck does that mean?
Ideally, 5 guys.
Let's go.
Christian versus Jack Swagger. So JBL starts going off about what an ugly man Christian is. Really? Christian?
He's not unhandsome.
Zeb Coulter's on the floor, and you say Christian's ugly. So, they went off about being the face of the company and all this bullshit. There are so many problems with this show these days, I wrote. The good news is the match was really good. As noted, Christian's back to having the best match in every mid-card. He eventually won with the sunset flip out of the corner. And as soon as he pinned Swagger, the camera cut to Cesaro on the floor, and Cesaro just hung his head in shame. And then Zeb...
I know that look.
Zeb berated Swagger, who was also bleeding, by the way. It's a rough show this week. And that was that.
Man, we got Twitter's on fire. We've got Bad News Barrett versus Bad Foods Lawler. Potential food. And this guy here, the Scarlet Lover, astutely points out, Vinny and Craig are not considering the labor costs to set up the Bad News podium.
It drives itself.
Doesn't drive itself.
Pretty much.
You got to control it.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Let's move on.
Let's.
New Age Outlaws versus the Brothers Rhodes in a steel cage match. Again, Outlaws did a babyface promo.
Yes.
For no particular reason, they announced this was, in this particular cage match, you couldn't escape to win. You had to pin the guy or submit him. So they wrestled around for a while.
Maybe they didn't want to make Cody look like an idiot.
Well, that failed. Yeah.
Did that on his own.
Yeah. That was unavoidable based on how this was going to go. So, chance for Punk. I believe they're chanting USA at one point. I don't know.
I don't know what they were chanting. I couldn't believe it was USA.
JBL pointed out the fans did not know who to cheer for. Correct! So, what happened here? Cody hit Billy with a disaster kick, and the fans were fooled, and they booed. And so Cody started to climb the cage, like in the middle of the ropes, not over in the corner. And he got to the top of the cage, and he stood up there, and he looked out of the crowd, and he jumped backwards, and he came not even upside down on the Road Dogg. He came down knees first on the Road Dogg. Road Dogg said, fuck this. He pushed him aside and barely grazed Road Dogg on the way down, and Cody bounced. And I don't even know anymore what guys are trying to do. They all just want to die. Then
I still don't know if Road Dogg was supposed to really try and catch the guy.
Why would you not catch a guy?
Well, the guy's jumping as high as he can off a giant cage, and you're asking one 40-something-year-old man to catch him?
Yeah.
It seems more likely that Cody would have been... The idea was, I do a moonsault, put your arm out and take a bump, no one dies, right?
He didn't even put his arm out.
He put his arm out.
Oh, come on.
He put his arm out.
Barely.
there is no good answer to this question.
There's no good reason to do this moonsault. It's
No.
the answer.
40-year-old men should not be catching dudes falling off cages, and dudes should not be falling off cages and taking flat belly bumps onto the mat. There's no good answer to this.
You know, he's doing this on, like, house shows at Madison Square Garden.
I know he did it one time, and I get that, actually, because that is the Garden. And guys, it's still, especially for them, that's still a big deal. This was just Raw. Anyway, so Cody misses this moonsault, gets up holding his ribs, and Billy hits the Fame Master for the win. So yes, Cody took the stupid bump to set up himself to be pinned.
Mm-hmm.
That's that. So the Outlaws, by the way, fighting champs and rightful champs. They keep beating people.
Baby faces.
They are. In a segment that's even funnier now than it was at the time, Titus O'Neil was wrestling Zack Ryder. Miz came out. He said he was appalled that these men were on Raw and he was not. And then he left.
Mm-hmm. He made this comment, by the way, while on Raw.
Yes. I was trying to determine if he had a point or not.
Why didn't you stay out there then, you idiot?
When they came back from commercial and Zack Ryder was in the ring, my son shouted, "Oh, there he is."
Like he was lost behind the couch
Right.
or something. So They went back and forth to establish that the newly turned Titus was a geek like Zach, and then Titus just barely won with a spine buster. This did nobody any favors.
By the way, on SmackDown, Christian did a promo, and the key line was, "I'm going to be the most dangerous Christian ever." And I was like, that sounds like that's a hell of a threat.
That is a long list.
Yeah.
The Crusades.
Yeah.
Clubbing people with God's word.
I don't know if he really realized what he said, but
It's a poor choice of words. Oh, God. The only people in this company who still... There's two people in this company who know what they're doing and deliver every time. There's Daniel Bryan and the people in the video department. This Ernie Ladd tribute video was awesome.
yes.
It's Black History Month. They are paying tribute to black wrestlers of the past. That includes Ernie Ladd. This video was great. Great, great, great. Fandango and Santino were supposed to have a dance-off.
Oh, here we go.
I don't know if I pointed this out, but when you think about it, for a comedy character, Santino has been around a long, long, long time.
By the way, in Black History Month, somebody tweeted this last night, and I didn't believe it, but it's true. On their website, they have a Black History Month video celebrating Elijah Burke.
Really? Well, he has history,
I guess you're right.
I suppose. All right, so Santino said nobody wanted to see him and Fandango dance. He suggested instead that Summer do a dance-off with a random audience member. The random audience member turned out to be Emma, making, I guess, her official in-ring debut.
Yeah.
So Summer went first, and they played her music, and she did her ballroom dancing. And just, yeah.
This is so funny because, like, Summer Rae was not like a dancer. She got the dancing gimmick, and so she's learned a very little bit of dancing, enough to make the gimmick work with Fandango.
Okay.
So she comes out and they play her music, and she dances for literally about maybe 5 seconds.
Pretty close,
And then she's done.
Yes.
And I'm just laughing like that's literally all she knows. It's hilarious. And they cut to Santino, goes, "That's it?" Yep, that's it.
And then it was Emma's turn,
Oh, man.
and they played her goofball NXT music, and she did her goofball NXT dance, and it died a death. It failed. So she did that for a while, and then it stopped, and then they pulled the fans, and the fans lied and said she won. And as my notes here read, a rocky start.
If this gets over, congratulations to Emma. And sometimes I have to read on the board that we're supposedly protecting people because they're friends of the site. I'm sure you've heard this. There aren't many friends of the site more friendly to the site than Lance Storm. And Emma is a Lance Storm trainee. I'm not going to go easy on this Emma gimmick. It fucking sucks.
Truth.
And I don't blame her. I mean, I don't think she came up with this gimmick. But maybe some people find this a lot funnier than I do. I have never found the dance funny. Never. Never found the dance funny. And I know it's like, I know people really like it in NXT and everything like that, but that's the NXT crowd. It's their homegrown Emma who started doing this gimmick and is beloved there. I cannot see any possible way that this can work on the international stage. And if no other reason, then Vicky Guerrero used to have to do this, and it was a source of comedy. You're a complete dork. And Emma's supposed to be like a babyface. Supposed to be beloved. And my God, did this die. It was sad how badly it died. And I don't know how you get it over. How do you get over the gimmick of a girl who does a stupid dance? You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it's going to work great. But I don't know. And it sucks to be brought up with something like this that has no future. Because I don't know what they do with you if it doesn't work. They blame you. You know what I mean? We'll see. Let me guess, Vinny, you loved it.
No. I said it died a death.
Well, it did die a death.
Why do I speak?
Some people really like Emma, you know what I mean? And they love her. And you can still love Emma if she doesn't do this dance. You know? It's not the dance that makes her cute.
That's right.
It's the fact that she's cute. So get rid of the dance.
Maybe she could do a different kind of dance.
No.
Okay.
I don't think that's happening.
PG, Craig.
It's too bad.
It's a better worker than half the main roster.
Yeah.
And they saddled her with a stupid gimmick.
Yeah, she's saddled with Santino and a goofy dance gimmick. Talk about the odds stacked against you coming up.
That's too bad.
Sheamus versus Curtis Axel. Ryback was also out there, so the fans chanted for Goldberg. Then they chanted for CM Punk. Didn't chant for anyone actually on this show or in this match. I determined that the best way to get over for all you guys floundering the mid-card, including Dolph and Miz, quit. As soon as you quit, people fall in love with you. Took way too long for Sheamus to win this match with a bro kick. Crowd was into the finish. That was it.
If people keep chanting CM Punk, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Did you see the guy in the crowd? He had a sign, and it said, "My other CM Punk sign got confiscated."
That may have been true.
That's kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, it is funny.
WWE is not holding down CM Punk, everybody.
He quit.
He quit, and he will not answer any calls.
Yes.
This is not their fault.
Batista came out for a promo.
Don't forget the Shawn Michaels Mr. WrestleMania Blu-ray.
There's a commercial for the Shawn Michaels Mr. WrestleMania.
Let's go get in line now.
I was going to say, that looks awesome. I don't buy a lot of Blu-rays, DVDs, none of that. But I got to get that one.
Will there be a single bad match on that set?
No.
Is it just all his WrestleMania matches?
Yeah.
Go back to like the Rockers and the Twin Towers?
I was going to say, what is... I think
Highest back drop I ever saw.
I seem to recall he had... wasn't that... I think that Diesel match wasn't all that good.
There have been... It was fine. There have been better Mania main events. Actually, that was a really good match, except the finish got botched.
It's a 3-disc set. It's got to be more than just their Mania matches.
Well, it's documentary, I'm sure.
I'm sure there'll be lots of interviews and guys talking about how good he is. Mostly himself, of course.
He's been in WrestleMania since, what, 1980-something? 8?
Yeah, 88 or 89.
So you're talking like 25 matches. That's a 3-disc set. And they're not short matches.
Especially the Undertaker ones.
No.
Yeah.
Batista came out for a promo. Del Rio interrupted before he could speak. I did love Dave here. He just wanted to know what Alberto's problem was.
Yeah.
That's all he asked repeatedly. So Del Rio ran him down for a while. He was talking about how he wasn't all that great and was threatening him and saying he was going to break his arm. And Taylor said, look, I just don't know why you're mad at me. And finally, Del Rio sucker punched him, beat him up for a bit, and Dave cut him off and sent him packing. And this is actually a good little angle. Because you have one guy who is a believable person. He just didn't know why Del Rio was trying to pick a fight. He'd done nothing wrong. And Del Rio was being a dick and deserved the ass whooping he's going to get. Great.
Well, there was the issue that nobody cared.
I cared.
That's good.
Dave was wearing a bedazzled jean jacket with the collar popped.
Yeah.
Phenomenal douchebag.
Douchebag? What are you talking about?
He dresses like a douchebag.
He does dress like a douchebag.
No, he doesn't. He dresses like Dave Batista. Nobody dresses like him.
Go to an MMA show.
No.
Everybody dresses
go
like...
to an MMA show?
Yes.
Been to more MMA shows than anyone in this room put together times 10.
Oh, my God. There's no douchebags in
Nobody
MMA?
wears that outfit. That's above and beyond.
What?
A bedazzled jean jacket? Nobody would make it through a UFC in Vegas walking around in that outfit.
Are you kidding me?
You'd be killed.
Vince, can I get some backup here?
No.
It was a sweet outfit, though. It's part of Dave's charm.
Dolph and Truth and Xavier Woods against the Wyatt family.
Captain, anyway.
Actually, to be fair, these fans wanted Dolph. It was the first time all night they had actually cheered for someone who was in the match.
It's great.
Didn't go very long. There was a parade of finishers, and then, yes, of course, Dolph got pinned because Luke Harper clotheslined him, and Wyatt hit Sister Abigail. Because if the fans like a guy, he can't possibly be allowed to be
That's
over.
not the issue. That's not the issue. The issue is clearly they are asking him to work and perform a certain way, and he just decides he's going to do it his own way.
Yeah.
The same goes for any job. If they tell Craig to build a cabinet a certain way, Craig can't go in there and put his own flourish on everything just for the fuck of it. Right?
Yeah.
They say, build the cabinet like this. You know what? I work for myself, but at one point I did have to work for, several times actually, I've had to work for others. And one of the things that I had to do was I wrote a wrestling column for Penthouse Magazine. That sounds wonderful until you actually have to do the job. And it was like doing a job. Mm-hmm. You would write a column. They would tell you the whole thing sucked because you weren't writing it like an article in Penthouse should be written. And that does not mean excessive fucking. There's a certain way that they want you to write it. There's a certain sing-songy, blah, blah, blah bullshit. And I had to write it this way. I couldn't just go in and write it the way I wanted because I would have been unemployed immediately. They wanted it written a certain way. You either write it a certain way or you fucking pack your bags. And unfortunately, that's how it is in WWE. You work a certain way or this is your fate.
And that's why Brian works for himself.
Yeah, actually it is.
I know it is.
It is.
You couldn't work for anybody.
I've tried.
I know.
But when I do work for someone else, I do follow the rules.
Okay.
Anyway.
We had the Alexander Rusev hype video again. They could just air this for 3 hours. I'd be happy. Oh, the Wyatts cut a promo on the... excuse me. The Shield kind of appeared on the big screen cutting a promo on the Wyatts and said they were not afraid of their horror movie act.
You are to Rusev what that one caller is to you.
It's true. It's really true. I don't think I've ever not enjoyed an Alexander Rusev segment. It's the first time I laid eyes on him.
Incredible. I've never seen you love a man so much.
It's great. And never shall you again.
Get that drop.
Naomi versus Oksana.
Oh, my.
Keep in mind, there are already two guys bleeding in the first hour of the show. So AJ's out there doing commentary. Her best line was when she explained that she had lost to Naomi in tag matches because she had been distracted by, and I quote, glitter and estrogen.
It's happened to me many times.
I suppose that's true. So, what's that? There's a name for that rolling body scissors that Naomi used here. Is it Kiwi Roll?
Oh, yeah, Kiwi Roll.
Kiwi Roll.
I was trying to remember that, actually.
Forgot that until right now. Naomi used a Kiwi Roll, which is funny.
I'll say.
So they're having this match.
The slowest Kiwi Roll I've ever seen. Terry Funk could do a faster Kiwi Roll in his 70s.
That's a lot of backside to get over.
That's true.
Yeah.
It was more she was working with Oksana.
That's a lot of dead weight to drag around. Speaking of dead weight. So
This fucking spot.
Naomi does like a kind of like she's going for a sunset flip.
Sure.
And so she's on the mat and Oksana's standing over her. And Oksana just looks down. And I swear to God, if you tried to drive someone's eyeball out with your knee, you couldn't have hit her any harder than Oksana did here. She just pounded the poor girl. And I immediately knew she just took her eyeball out.
The more I think about this, I mean, I love Trinity. I don't want to even laugh about this, but it's so completely ridiculous that as long as I live, I will never forget Oksana. What the fuck was she thinking?
I think she was thinking, I'm going to remove your eyeball now.
I got a great idea. I'm stuck in the sunset flip. I'll just drive my knee into your eyeball.
Yeah. So poor Naomi immediately started to grab her eye and try to put it back into her head where it belonged. And somehow she managed to make a comeback and hit a split leg moonsault for the win. And then Alicia Fox was out there and she tried to attack, and then they laid her out, and Naomi hit the rear view. And as soon as she landed after hitting the rear view, she went back to making sure her eyeball was still in her head. And then she did her best to smile and dance, but you could tell she was not a happy camper.
You know, I didn't see the show live, so someone just texted me and said, oh my God, is Naomi okay? And if you recall, a few weeks ago, Naomi did something. And remember she compressed her spine, it looked like?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, I hope she's all right. So I go to watch the show, and I see she's in it with Oksana. And I was like, oh, no. She's going to, like, get backdropped onto her neck, or what terrible thing is going to happen in this match? So then I watch it. It's like, what? What are you thinking? Then I had to ask, is she okay? And the response was, it was basically an eye poke. So, sounds not very serious.
With a knee?
Essentially just an eye poke. So
that's a bony knee.
Today,
okay, go ahead.
the official response from WWE was no significant injuries at Raw. So, like, Cody didn't break his arm. She didn't have her eye popped out of the socket or anything like that. No serious injuries. So then, if you go to her Twitter right now, she's explaining that she nearly lost her eye. That seems rather, someone's report is inaccurate.
Yeah.
I don't think she nearly lost her eye, though. But that was no good. Never, ever do the spot. Anybody, ever.
No.
What the fuck were they thinking?
If you're attacked by thugs in a dark alley and one of them sunset flips you, you now know what to do.
No, you don't know what to do. You could go to prison for life.
All right.
Oksana.
Randy Orton wrestled Daniel Bryan. I don't want to shock anybody, but Bryan got the biggest ovation of the night, at least among people who was actually on the show.
Even people who weren't on the show, he got the biggest reaction of the night.
I don't know. I guess it's worth noting, but people missed Punk and chanted for him, and they missed Goldberg, I guess, and chanted for him. Nobody missed John Cena.
No.
John Cena also got an eye poke. It was off this show, and nobody seemed to care.
Well, realistically, I think everybody figured he was going to be there. And in the end, he was. After the show ended.
I see. So, actually, in hindsight, this is very amazing. This is not a back-and-forth match. This was, if this match went 20 minutes, then about 15 of it was Bryan kicking Randy Orton's ass. Or specifically, kicking his leg. He kicked him in the leg over and over and over and over again. And finally, Orton was able to cut him off with the backdrop onto the barricade. Most of his offense consisted of working over Bryan's fingers behind the ref's back, which is the most old-school thing ever, and I fell in love. Finally, Bryan made his comeback, and he's running wild. And Kane came out to try to cut him off, but Bryan took care of Kane, too. He knocked Kane off the apron. He dumped Orton out of the ring. He hit a tope onto both of them. And he got back in the ring. He avoided an RKO, and he hit the knee strike for the win. This is Daniel Bryan whipping ass for 20 minutes. And then winning.
Yeah.
Against two dudes.
Yep.
This match was really great, but didn't Kane learn his lesson about getting his hands on the talent with CM Punk?
Oh, they've long since forgotten that.
Okay. So Punk's gone, so that storyline's out the window?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Actually. I thought this match was great.
Yes.
It was awesome.
I like Randy Orton in the ring a lot more than a lot of people. A lot of people are bored by him. I do think he's a really great worker. But he can kind of coast along when he's in chinlock mode, particularly. But Daniel Bryan, you could tell that Orton really likes working with Bryan.
He steps it up.
Like, he really likes being able to have this kind of match. And every time him and Bryan are together, Bryan brings the best out of Orton. And he did here. Orton was working his ass off. I just thought this match was great. So, where they go now, I don't know. And I don't know if they know. Because they're in L.A. I believe they're in L.A. this coming week, if I recall correctly. And they have not changed the WrestleMania card, but they are open to the idea of changes coming to the WrestleMania card. And so, essentially, over the next few weeks, they're going to kind of keep an eye on all of their indicators, the crowd reactions, ratings, all that sort of thing. And based on that, they may make some changes. So I think that's what's going on here with Bryan and Hunter. If Bryan is really, if LA, for example, like everybody is just going nuts for Daniel Bryan all evening, if this keeps up, he may end up in the title match in a 3-way. If they decide, then he'll feud with Hunter. So I think they're kind of holding off to see what's going on over the next couple of weeks before they pull the trigger on that one. So it's either Bryan in a 3-way or Bryan and Hunter. So
is there any chance of them putting the title on Bryan before Mania.
Highly unlikely.
No, that's too bad. And then have Triple H and Orton.
Triple H and Orton?
Sure. Just switch the two.
Do you remember the last Triple H Orton match at WrestleMania?
That's true. That was pretty bad.
That was very horrible.
True. You know how Ziggler goes a million miles an hour? That was the opposite.
They went backwards, yes.
Right.
That was the opposite of a Ziggler match in every conceivable way. Well, that's it, everybody. That's the show.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this Raw show here.
All right, now you watched the Hulu version of this, right?
I watched the 90-minute version, yes. I don't think I missed much.
I have an idea. Let's do that every week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know if you
I'm
can get away
so
with that.
jealous of you. Are people going to quit in droves?
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something about watching the Hulu version. If you record this show, if you record Raw on your DVR, you can quickly fast forward through all of the commercials, and you can watch Raw in about 2 hours. So the Hulu version is 90 minutes long, but there are no fewer than 7 or 8 commercial breaks, which you cannot fast forward through, all of which are about 2 minutes long. So it takes about the exact same amount of time to watch on Hulu as it takes to watch on DVR, and you're forced to watch these god-awful commercials. So honest to God, I would rather watch the 3-hour version and skip the commercials than watch the 90-minute Hulu version and be forced to watch them, because they suck.
See, I just don't watch the commercials. I know you can't skip them, but they come on. That's when I check my phone or I at the cat or whatever.
I see. Well, hey, you know what? You may have missed some cool stuff by. We'll talk about what I didn't get to see on here, so you can decide whether or not it was worth skipping that stuff.
All right. Show opened with Big Show escorting Betty White out on stage. She vowed to kick some ass. In hindsight, she did not live up to this vow. She failed.
She's 8 years older than Granny.
Yeah, I know. She's pretty remarkable.
Oh, yeah.
She's pretty amazing. So Hunter and Steph came out, and Hunter was smiling a giant smile at Big Show, and Big Show just glared back at him. So at least they can remember their continuity going back to November. I'm actually glad that exists. Show and Betty left. Helmsley's came down to the ring. Hunter admitted they were reconsidering Daniel Bryan to be the face of the WWE. They were also reconsidering everyone else in the chamber match. Orton came out. They told him to go back and prepare for his match with Cena. He started to apologize for his behavior. There's sporadic chants for CM Punk, but louder chants for Daniel Bryan. They talked and they talked and they talked and they talked and they talked. Daniel Bryan came out and they all talked and talked and talked and talked. Bryan demanded a match with Kane. Steph said Kane is suspended. Bryan called them stupid. Orton said they deserve respect. They talked and they talked and they talked and they talked and they talked. And like 9 hours in, Hunter said he was giving Bryan the night off, and Bryan and all the fans were pissed. And I wrote down, this took forever and sucked.
Well, I don't have much to add to it, except to say that
This on Hulu?
this was on Hulu, unfortunately. Daniel Bryan's babyface stuff, they've got to stop this scripted bullshit. I mentioned that in the SmackDown thing, but it was just as bad here. And it was funny. The Figure 4 Weekly this past week, which you haven't even checked it out yet, it's up on the site, PDF. There was a letter from somebody in WWE, and is talking about CM Punk. And this person noted that Punk doesn't really want to be the face of the company. Punk doesn't want to go on all these morning shows. Punk doesn't want to do this schedule. And it was this list of things that Punk wasn't going to want to do. Now, Randy Orton was not the person who sent this letter. Believe me, he was not the person that sent this letter. But it was funny, when he did his promo, he said the exact same thing, except he said he wanted to do that. I nearly fell off my chair when I heard that little speech. Yes, he wants to be the guy that is on all these goofy shows. He wants to be the guy that's on the road all the time. But he's not going to be. I don't see him being I don't see him being your typical morning show guy. And I also want to know who in WWE received the strongly worded letter of reprimand that is now part of the storyline with Kane. Because you know somebody got something like this.
Rey Mysterio and the Brothers Rhodes against the Wyatt family. Shorter than most six-mans these days, but the crowd went nuts when Rey made his comeback. Everyone hit giant moves on the floor. Cody went hard into the dasher boards. He cursed loud enough to get bleeped. And the finish looked awesome. Rey was in there with Bray Wyatt, and he went to hit the 619. But after he bounced off the ropes, Rey turned around and caught him as he was running with Sister Abigail. That looked killer. And that was the finish. Bray pinned him. Then Bray retreated to his rocking chair, cut a promo saying the Shield would fail against them, like everyone else had failed against them. They were fighting a war that was not meant for them.
This finish was awesome. And granted, Bray's been in the ring with a lot of good guys, but he's gotten a lot better. He is really improving as a singles wrestler, and hopefully they keep him in the ring with guys like this to keep him getting better. This was good, and the finish, as you noted, was awesome.
At a Royal Rumble recap video, mainly showing Roman Reigns throwing dudes out left and right. Then the Shield had a promo backstage with Renee. They all said they would beat the Wyatts. Renee asked Dean why he had not defended the U.S. title in a long time. He began to make excuses about paperwork. Roman made fun of him. So Ambrose said, "Fine, I'll fight anyone tonight, and it's an open challenge for my U.S. title." The girls were all fawning over Betty White backstage.
Did you presume that Roman was going to challenge for the title?
I had not thought of that, actually.
Really? That was the first thing I thought of. It was the first thing Dave thought of. I think it was designed for people to assume that, even though it wasn't going to happen.
It might have been. It's too early to do that. But, yeah, you may be right. So the girls were all fawning over Betty White backstage. Vicky Guerrero arrived, and nothing happened, so I don't know why she did that. But they plugged Betty's wacky new show, and the New Age Outlaws arrived, and they promised to protect Betty from any pranks the girls would try to pull, and then they all left to go get some tea.
This was so contrived. Because it was so badly acted. And I think it was...
You don't believe the New Age Outlaws and Betty White would be friends?
Not that part, but like all of the divas are just like huddled around Betty White, and then... Not
even huddled around, standing in a line shoulder to shoulder.
Yes, exactly. So they're all facing the camera. But, so they're there, and I can't remember who it was. I think it was Natalia, who's explaining to the other girls what the concept of the show was. And it was like, I don't believe one moment of this. And then they didn't cut to her. She's standing there. And Nikki Bella goes, I can't wait to watch. Like, give me a break. I couldn't even pretend to believe you're ever going to watch this television show. Yes,
they showed clips
that
of
bothered me.
Cena. No, that's fine. They showed clips of an Orton Cena match and an I Quit match in 2009. Fandango and Santino in the death match.
Didn't see
Emma
it.
and Summer Rae were out there.
Wasn't on Hulu. Wasn't on Hulu.
You missed virtually nothing. Miz came out to whine about not being on TV, and then he got cut from Hulu. The girls were out there. Fandango won with a leg drop. JBL said that everyone in NXT did Emma's dance with her. I guess they're trying to get the WWE fans to do the same thing.
Did you hear that they're doing that new remake of, what the hell's that movie? I just wrote about it in the Daily Update today.
The Marine?
No, there's the Marine, and then Jingle. What the hell's the Jingle Bell movie called?
Jingle All the Way 2.
Jingle All the Way 2, starring Larry the Cable Guy and Santino.
What was the first one?
Jingle All the Way.
Thank you. Who was in it?
I don't know.
I think that was Schwarzenegger and Sinbad. How in the hell did we get from those two to Santino and Larry the Cable Guy?
All right.
That is no good.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad. Not the Sinbad from our board.
No.
1996. And they've decided to do a remake or a part 2 18 years later.
That movie is old enough to vote.
It is.
Oh, God. All right. Byron Saxton was backstage interviewing Sheamus. I wrote down that he talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. It took him way too long to say he was going to win the Chamber at Main Event Mania. Christian and Sheamus versus the Real Americans.
This is where Hulu picked back up after the Divas segment with Betty White.
You recall last week, JBL made some comment about Christian's face, and I was stunned that they would think this man ugly. It never occurred to me after watching him now for multiple decades. Well, apparently they're picking up this ball and they're running with it, because Christian cut an inset promo, and my God, black eye. It looked like they geeked up his face like Abdullah the Butcher, lit it as harshly as possible to show off his cheekbones to make him look ghastly, hair all disheveled.
Ghastly.
He looked horrible.
You really look
They made him
ghastly.
They made him look like a particularly ugly 200-year-old man. Out of their way to achieve this.
Ghastly.
Astonishing.
Ghastly.
Yes.
I gotta look up a definition for this.
So, just
That was a
talked about being
worse
the face of the
burial
company.
of poor Christian than anything they've ever done for the poor guy. To call him ghastly.
I don't mind, because I can tell this is a concerted effort.
All right.
They're trying to working with this.
Dictionary.com. Ghastly. Shockingly frightful or dreadful. Horrible.
Correct.
Resembling a ghost.
That's
Terrible.
how he looked in this inset.
And also with a death-like quality.
Am I wrong?
Synonyms. Death-like, pallid, and cadaverous.
He was pallid. That is fact.
Poor Christian. Terrible.
So Zeb and Cesaro, is he? I apparently he's no longer Antonio.
Yes, he's just
He's
Cesaro.
just Cesaro.
By the way, this has nothing to do with anything, but have you heard of the doom of Flappy Bird?
I had not heard of this until it was doomed.
Really?
Yeah. I never heard of the game. I never heard of the app. I never heard of anyone playing it. But suddenly, the guy who makes it pulls it, and everyone is rioting.
Maybe I was just in like a good mood last night because I'm here in paradise. But I heard about Flappy Bird, and there is an article. I can't remember the guy's name, but all you got to do is go to slate.com, and a guy there wrote an article about why Flappy Bird needed to die. Funniest goddamn article I've read, and I don't know how long. I was crying as I read this article about the life and the death of Flappy Bird. So I encourage everybody to go to slate.com right now and or just Google why Flappy Bird had to die on Slate. Funniest fucking thing I've read in weeks. So check it out. And do you know that people are selling their Flappy Bird? They're selling their phones on what the hell is that thing
The
called?
phone has the app.
Yeah, they're selling them on eBay, and people are getting thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars for their fucking phones, so that people can play Flappy Bird now that it's been pulled.
Clearly, this man is a fool for pulling it.
His tweet
Maybe if I
about
read the story, it'll make sense. But
you got to read this article on Slate. Read it when we're done with the show. It's great.
so you got a tweet, or
Did I what?
I thought you said you got a tweet you're going to read.
No, I said read it. Read it after we're done with the show.
All right, that was some great radio. All right, so we got this tag match. It's Christian and Sheamus against the Real Americans, and Zeb screamed at Swagger, who let Cesaro start the match. Sheamus and Cesaro, much like Sheamus and Ryback, were two big dudes wailing on each other, which I always love. What's amazing is that the fans were solidly behind Cesaro. They wanted to see him beat Sheamus. There's a long heat segment on Christian, including the giant swing spot. Eventually, Sheamus got the hot tag, made a great comeback. Everyone loved him. Everyone took turns hitting big moves. And finally, Sheamus pinned Swagger with a bro kick. A fine little Raw match.
This was a great little match. It was on Hulu too, so you can all go up there and check it out. I love and Sheamus is I don't know. He's not coming across like a superstar, but the people are into him. I guess they were really in everything on this whole show. But for a while there, Sheamus came back, and it was like, he got a big pop at the Rumble, and then people stopped caring. But they cared about him in this match, so this was good.
Cena cut a backstage promo with Renee. He said he and Orton had dominated the company for a decade now, and now the fans were cheering for Daniel Bryan and other people. He actually said this.
Every John Cena match. Oh, go ahead.
He vowed to beat Orton tonight, and then he would go on to face Daniel Bryan or the Shield or the Wyatts or anyone else who thought they could beat him.
Every John Cena promo starts the same way. He comes onto the screen, and then he gives this smirk. It's the kind of smirk you'd give kind of a wink to the audience, like, what you're about to see is going to suck. And then it morphs into the very stern John Cena face, where he makes his face as wide as possible, and his frown, it's kind of like it's not really a frown, it's like a straight face, as wide as possible, and then he launches into his deal. It's like it's going to be a drinking game now. The John Cena sarcastic, goofy look, followed by the stern face before launching into a promo. And by the way, I got to add one more thing. The other thing was he gives his speech, everything you said, and he's talking about how we're in the midst of great change. This network is launching, is going to change TV, and fans, he said, fans are now supporting new people, and so it's time to tell the fans who these new people are that they're supporting. And he goes, Daniel Bryan and many other guys. I was like, wow, they've gotten over some superstars here. And many other guys. You couldn't fucking think of one other guy?
Del Rio squashed Dolph Ziggler in 2 minutes with a super kick.
And
Put him in the armbar after the match until Big Dave came skipping down the ramp. And you heard me correctly. Big Dave skipped down this ramp.
Mm-hmm.
He was back to wearing his regular trunks, not whatever he had in the Rumble, but he still had the short boots on. And he attacked Del Rio and powerbombed him through an announce desk. He picked up a monitor to whack him with it, but they talked him out of it, and he put it down, and he walked away. Yep.
I need to buy this match. Why?
Killed him deader than dead.
Just destroyed him. I mean, I presume that Del Rio beats him up like next week on Raw. But dear God, I watched this and I was like, why the fuck would I want to pay for this match?
Yeah. The Bella Twins had a video telling us how to get the network. Did this air on Hulu?
Sadly, it did not, unless I missed it. But I don't know how I would have.
I'm kind of surprised, kind of not. Have you heard about this at all?
No, tell me.
All right. To their credit, I have actually very strong mixed feelings about this. To their credit, rather than just have Michael Cole do this like he tells us how to download the app every week, they made a little skit. It was like we were on an airplane, and it was time for these safety instructions. Only instead of stewardesses, it was the Bella Twins.
That's not too bad.
And instead of telling us what's happening.
Nothing, what's up?
It's like, all right. Instead of stewardesses, we had the Bella Twins, and they weren't telling us how to put on our seatbelts. They were telling us how to order the network. I've never seen anything so dumbed down in my entire life. If you thought Michael Cole telling you how to download the app was patronizing, this was, as Hulk Hogan would say, a whole nother level.
Was it more dumbed down than when you're actually on the airplane and in 2014 they're trying to explain how to put on a seat belt?
Close. I would say yes, because the first thing they told you was that your device needs to be not only plugged in, but also turned on. But hey, better safe than sorry.
Hey, it's better safe than sorry.
Yeah. Triple H met with Big Dave backstage. He said, "This is now a publicly traded company. I need you to behave because if somebody gets hurt, my neck is on the line." He offered Dave a match with Del Rio at the pay-per-view, and Dave accepted. He said, "Things around here really have changed."
I do like that he said we're a publicly traded company now. They were a publicly traded company before Big Dave broke into the business.
They were, weren't they?
Yes. There's never been a period where Batista's been a professional wrestler that they have not been a publicly traded company.
I had not thought of that, but you're right. They announced Lita for the Hall of Fame.
Believe it or not, this was not on Hulu.
Really? So, you know how every time they show a clip from the past, you always think, man, that was great. And then you think, man, wrestling sucks now. This was one of those times.
I'll bet.
We watch Lita, we watch the Bellas, we watch Oksana, we watch even we watch Tamina, we watch Rosa Mendez. And then they put clips of Lita on there. She was so much better than anyone they have right now.
Oh, yeah. I heard they did at the tapings tonight, they did a singles match. A singles match with Alicia Fox versus Eva Marie. I was told it was god awful.
Sure it was.
Lita was better.
The Outlaws tried to spike Betty White's tea, but she was too smart for them, and she spiked theirs instead.
By the way, I don't like to get into people's personal lives, but who inducts Lita?
There are many options.
Because the current biggest women's star in WWE is AJ Lee. And they have video of AJ when she was like 12 years old at an autograph signing for Lita, crying because she got to meet her hero Lita. It's a very famous footage, right?
Yeah.
AJ Lee is currently dating CM Punk, who used to be dating Lita. So this would be quite the awkward induction.
That would be a good one for awkward. I would if I could pick any one person to induct Lita into the Hall of Fame, I would pick Matt Hardy.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either, but it would be entertaining. So Betty White spiked the Outlaws tea.
This
Axelback
God was not on Hulu.
I will say, if it was described to you, it probably sounds worse than it actually was. It was not good, but it was not as it could have been worse. I'll say that. So the whole point is that the Outlaws were out there on commentary, and Billy was coughing, and then he got bleeped several times, and they were all wondering what was wrong with him. About 3 minutes in, the Usos pinned Axel with a splash, and the Outlaws started to confront them, but then Mr. Ass grabbed his ass and ran to the back.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Good.
Dean Ambrose versus a mystery opponent. Mystery opponent was not, in fact, Roman Reigns. It was Mark Henry.
I like how we're this far into the show. They've announced that Mark Henry is coming back on the show. Mark Henry hasn't been on the show yet, and it's still a mystery opponent who Dean Ambrose is going to face.
That's right. That's right. So I am not sure which was better. Dean's look of dismay when he saw that he was wrestling Mark Henry, or Roman's look of glee when he knew Dean was wrestling Mark Henry. So they had a long match. It was not especially good. It was mostly Dean working over Henry's bad arm. And then finally, he made a one-arm comeback, hit the World's Strongest Slam, Shield attacked for the DQ. He fought them off for a while, but eventually Reigns speared him on the floor. And then the Shield were heading out. And the Wyatts made their entrance. And this was so awesome. So the Wyatts, the screen goes black, and you think, okay, it's going to be another promo. But then instead, he just says, "We're here." And the music starts, and then they're out on the floor. and the Shield had just crossed over the barricade, and the two teams stare each other down, and the Shield turn around, jump the barricade, and they stand in the ring. Two teams stare at each other. And the Wyatts climb up on the apron. The fans cheer a little louder. They stare at each other. And the Shield climbs up on the apron. Everyone cheers a little louder. And the Shield gets in the ring. Everyone's going nuts. And then Bray steps like 1 foot through the ropes. The place is about to explode. And then he backs off. He takes his men and he leaves. And everyone's sad they didn't get to see a fight. This was so awesome.
It was awesome. And actually, I think
besides making me want to see the fight, they have let the fans know these two teams are going to fight. And you do have a rooting interest now. Now you want to cheer for the Shield, and especially Roman Reigns, who's going to get cheered anyway.
This
right. Ruled.
That's right. The key was that whenever the Shield's over the barricade, and first they jump the barricade, then they get on the apron, then they get inside the ring. The guy who led the charge for every single one of these events was Roman Reigns. So Roman Reigns was the one who got cheered the entire time. I mean, they cheered the entire Shield because they were looking for a fight. But the key was Roman was the guy. Roman's the guy who wants to fight. Roman's the guy who wants to get in there. Roman's leading the charge. So, yeah, this was awesome.
Just excellent stuff. They had the, for Black History Month, the Bobo Brazil tribute video.
Didn't see this.
They showed him cutting some great promos and throwing some ungodly, terrible punches. I will say that I hope when Black History Month is over, they just keep doing these little historical profiles because they're really cool. They're really well done. And it's not like there's not hundreds of wrestlers they couldn't do these on. Just cool stuff. They got 3 hours to kill anyway. What the hell? Oksana and Alicia and AJ versus the Bellas and Cameron.
Man, they cut this from Hulu. Can you believe that?
I know, hard to believe. Especially after those viewership numbers Mookie ran on this. So they talked about Naomi undergoing surgery after Oksana broke her face. I will admit, I mentioned earlier that none of these girls can hold a candle to Lita, and that's still true. But by and large, they all looked fine here. Cameron especially has improved significantly. And Oksana didn't break anybody's face this week. And Cameron with a DDT.
Mm-hmm. You know, I got to say one thing about Mookie's numbers, and he mentioned this, and everybody else is well aware of this, I'm sure, but it's really hard to do the ratings breakdowns because, my God, these women matches are always put in the death slot. It's billed as a death slot. Everybody knows it's a death slot. And aside from, like, one girl breaking another girl's orbital bone, nothing ever happens in these matches. I mean, you're essentially told now is the time to turn the channel. You know what I mean? So...
yeah, you're correct on all of this. Yes.
You can, because I mean, even Dave in the newsletter, he I think he tried to make a point that, you know, the idea is if you put pretty, beautiful people on television, people will tune in, but the women's numbers prove that wrong, and it's like it doesn't prove that wrong. You know, it has nothing to do with what they look like. It's the fact that they're put in a death slot. You know, it's a death slot. It's essentially advertised as a death slot. It doesn't matter what they look like. It's not going to do well. I mean, if you took a girl and you broke her out of the pack, which they kind of did for AJ for a little while. You know, there were like 3 straight Raws, eight months ago or so, where AJ was out there in the overrun segment. And so guess what? I'm sure AJ's numbers during that period were gigantic. It had nothing to do with whether she was pretty or not. She was put in a main event segment and pushed as a main eventer. So there's something to the ratings patterns, but WWE puts certain people at certain times. And the fans know that the important stuff happens at certain times. So it's kind of like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point, how numbers are going to change.
All true. We had the Alexander Rusev promo. Pretty sure it's the same one. If not, it may as well have been. Kane came out for a promo. I don't know why, if he was on administrative leave, that he was there and then allowed to come out and cut a promo. This doesn't make any sense. Bryan very quickly ran down. They had a brawl, went back and forth for a bit. Bryan got the better of things. Kane had to run away through the crowd. Easily the biggest reaction for anything on the entire show. And they were sure to get a shot of Bryan leading the crowd in chants as he stood underneath the WrestleMania sign. Eddie White cut a promo backstage. She said she had had so much fun being there, and now let's get to the main event. She was so happy.
It's a long night.
It was a long night. And then it was John Cena versus Randy Orton. Early on, crowd was kind of sorted into this. They were doing a chance for Cena, and then mostly stretches of silence interrupted by occasional chants for Punk or Bryan. And then by the end, I think the turning point, Orton hit a DDT, and Cena appeared to take this bump on his forehead, just to spike himself into the ground. And from that point on, it was really awesome. Orton hit a elevated DDT with Cena's feet draped on the top rope. And after Orton hit this move, he snapped. He turned to the crowd. He screamed at them to call him boring or say he did the same old shit or any of this stuff. And then as soon as he said that, he turned around and Cena cut him off and put him in the STF. And they kicked out of everyone. They kicked out of each other's finishers. And finally, Cena hit the guillotine leg drop and the AA for the win. A hell of a match. Better than some pay-per-view main events. And I guess it doesn't matter who won, or we'll see how it leads to. But it was fun to watch.
That's the key.
Yeah.
They have a good match every time. They always have a good match. I watch them and I'm like, that's a damn good match. You know, I like the Royal Rumble match. I like this match, but you know what? I don't need to see this match again. I can go 3 more years before I see this match again. It's just it's Cena versus Orton. How many times can we see this match? You know what I mean? But I mean, it was completely forgettable, but it was a really good match. So thumbs up for it. But let's all move on with our lives now. That's all I ask. That was wrong.
Moving on with our lives, let's end the show.
All right, listen, everybody. Here's the update. Traditional pay-per-view ended, everybody. Daniel Bryan being pinned by Randy Orton. And the shot at the end of the show of various fans in states of boredom, annoyance. It was actually a really good pay-per-view. For a final ever WWE pay-per-view, it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad.
And
it was just the ending of the show.
But you knew what the ending was. Everybody knew what was going to happen on this show.
Sure.
You should have, all of you. You didn't think Randy Orton was going to retain
the title? I thought Randy Orton was going to win, but it was something we expected, but still, it's something we have seen many, many times over the past 6 months.
Sometimes it's okay to be surprised.
Yes. And the shots of the fans at the end, obviously they wanted to build sympathy for Daniel Bryan, and obviously they wanted to put heat on Randy Orton. But these fans just looked so bored. Amazingly bored. All of them. They weren't. This is not Ms. Girl. These fans were in a trance. Not in a good way. They were zoned out. They had checked out.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of I got a lot of live reports here on the Twitter machine. If you want to contact us via Twitter at Brian Alvarez, we are live, so I'll be looking at these throughout the evening. And the hashtag is F4W Live. And this person here, Eric's there live. Everybody went quiet, he said, when Orton pinned Bryan at the end. I've got a fella here who says that as soon as Orton got the pin, a fan just threw his popcorn over the barricade. He is being escorted out right now. We had a lot of very unique chants on the show.
Maybe it was Michael Cole.
Yeah.
No.
How about that? Well, I suppose we should get into it because we got a lot to talk about.
Sure.
This is our immediate post show. Me and Dave will be up later on tonight about 3 a.m. Eastern with the Wrestling Observer Radio post show. And don't forget, the WWE Network is kicking off tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, which is 6 a.m. Pacific. I know Craig's not going to sleep tonight.
Right.
He's so excited to get the network. And Vinny, I'm sure will just do what he always does. There was a lot of interesting stuff on the show, I will say that. Go ahead, Vinny. Let's kick this thing off.
Jack Swagger versus Big E for the Intercontinental title. Zeb cut a promo saying things had gotten worse since Big E had been Intercontinental Champion.
Actually, I got to cut you off already.
That didn't take long.
The pre-show match. I put up a new TV in here because the WWE Network is coming.
Very
Looks
distracting.
great.
So I actually could watch I watched the pre-show. I talked about this on Observer Live. If you didn't hear it, everybody's asking about Apple TV. Can we get the network on Apple TV? I presume that tomorrow morning there's going to be a WWE Network little logo on Apple TV, but it's not there yet. However, I can tell you that at 4:30 today, I went into the WWE app on my iPhone, and I airplayed the pre-show to my television.
There you go.
And it was HD. It looked great. So if all else fails, everybody, that's what you do. If you've got an Apple TV, You can watch the network on the WWE app, I presume tomorrow. I think that's what they explain. And so you can just AirPlay everything to your Apple TV. But I expect that there's going to be the little Delia Bob on there. But anyway, it was Ryback against Goldust and Cody. That was the pre-show match. And you'll never guess who came out with Ryback and Curtis Axel.
If I guess, will you give me $20?
No.
It was Larry Hennig.
Larry the Axe Hennig came down to the ring.
That is awesome.
Actually looked like the toughest guy at ringside. And so you'll never guess the finish.
Axel got pinned?
Cody pinned Axel right in front of his father. Grandfather. I screwed that up earlier today, too.
Jobber.
But yeah, that was the finish. So it was a pre-show match. Wasn't much to it. I was mostly amazed that I was sitting there like, watching commercials during the middle of a pre-show match on the WWE app. But yeah, they had commercials there. So anyway, that was that. All right, now we can go to the real pay-per-view.
Your TV looks great, I have to say.
Isn't that nice?
That's a very excellent TV.
It was cheap. I got it at Best Buy. You know how cheap TVs are nowadays?
A lot less than it used to be.
That's right.
A lot more cheap. But.
All right.
So Big E versus Swagger. Zeb blamed Big E for the polar vortex. That made me laugh. So we've said many times that the most amazing thing about Big E is how he can move at his size. I don't know the official numbers, but I know he is very, very heavy, but also very short. Meanwhile, Jack Swagger is very tall. Big E leapfrogged him.
Oh, yeah.
High.
He's a high jumper.
It's amazing. Yes, like Jim Brunzell. He's an amazing athlete. So they had a good pay-per-view opener.
Greg's laughing. It's the only time you'll ever hear that comparison.
Big E and Jim Brunzell, They have one thing in common. They can jump.
Yeah.
He also hit Swagger with a belly-to-belly suplex, so he has now become a more athletic version of Taz. Swagger ended up bleeding from the mouth again. The latest victim of Big E's body count.
5 in a row.
5 in a row, Craig says?
Yeah, I think so.
I like how I told the people you said that right after they heard you say it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, aside from one mid-ring collision that JBL accurately described as butt ugly, perfectly fine pay-per-view opener, and Big E finally powered out of the ankle lock, hit an enziguri, and then finished him off with a big inning for the win.
This was a good match. When they came out, the fans I don't think really wanted to see Swagger and Big E, but by the end they were into this match. It was they're getting more and more of these crowds, but the crowds just decide, hey, you know what? Tonight we're gonna like Jack Swagger, and so they got it at Jack Swagger. And every time Jack Swagger, like the longer it went, the more into Jack Swagger they were. And I don't even know why. I understand turning on some guys, but why would you turn on poor Biggie Langston? He's great.
If you like to see two men clubber each other, this was the match for you. There was a great spot where Swagger had gone outside to the ring apron, and Big E gave him a spear through the ropes and to the floor, and it looked really ugly. And the fans chanted a thing I can't say in front of my 8-year-old.
Holy shit.
Thank you.
Craig's son is downstairs.
Yes, he might hear me.
Hopefully not listening.
I'll go tell him what you said. Hang on.
Okay.
By the way, Vinny, you're commenting on my television. See how good that looks right there?
I don't know what you're watching. It's a very non-Brian Alvarez program. There's like Lamborghinis.
There's Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
Well, let me explain, everybody. So I got the Apple TV, and I was looking around for something that was streaming live. And this is Bloomberg Television.
I see.
So that's streaming live at HD right now. So that is conceivably what WWE Network should look like. Although I believe WWE Network is only streaming in 720p. And I think that looks like maybe 1080 to me, but we'll see.
I think it's really, really good.
It does look really good. It's amazing. It's amazing what you can do with technology here today. Yeah. Barrett came out with his damn podium.
It worked once.
It did work once.
Barrett got a brand new podium, everyone.
Yeah. Broke. No longer cheap.
No.
Well, actually, apparently it is. It broke.
You're right.
They took the scissor lift.
It was still a scissor lift.
They took the scissor lift and put a nice big platform on it made out of probably fake steel.
Plywood. Yeah.
It looked very cool. The logo that went up, it was basically just a big curtain with the Raw or the BNB. And it's now officially too much money.
They've brought you over to Brian's side.
Yes, I'm there.
Somebody said that Barrett should preside over the next earnings call.
Oh.
Because there's going to be some bad news.
Well, his bad news here was that the United States have won fewer medals in the Olympics than Russia, and so they would have to wait 4 more years to try and beat them. Mm-hmm. They formally announced Hulk Hogan appearing at WrestleMania. Daniel Bryan did a quick backstage promo saying, yes, his shoulder was hurt, but he was going to win the chamber match anyway. New Age Outlaws versus the Usos.
This, before we even get into the match, they're coming down to the ring, and for some reason, we got a very powerful plug for Hulu.
Yeah.
And they're plugging that Hulu is the only place where you can get next day airings of Raw and SmackDown. And I was like, oh, really, fool? I could have sworn that the WWE Network was going to have these replays of SmackDown and Raw. And granted, you're not going to get the full 3 hours of Raw on the network. You'll get the same 90-minute version because there's a deal with USA Network not to re-air the entire 3 hours. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I watched the hour-and-a-half version when I was in Hawaii. Far superior to the 3-hour version. They cut out all the crap.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I couldn't understand this plug here. I don't know if maybe like Hulu is upset that their stuff is not it's not exclusive anymore, and maybe that is still exclusive, and we're actually not going to get Raw and SmackDown replays the next day on the network. Or maybe they promised Hulu a gigantic plug. I don't know what the deal was, but they were making it very clear that the only place, and I guess technically at this exact moment it's true, the only place to get these shows the next day is Hulu. So I guess we'll see what happens tomorrow.
So every time the Outlaws appear, they appear to do a heel-face turn. I'm pretty sure they were heels on SmackDown. They came out doing a babyface promo. Road Dogg did his usual pre-match spiel so all the fans would cheer. He also claimed that at one point they had main evented WrestleMania. Perhaps I missed one.
Well, you can find out tomorrow.
I guess so. I'll just watch all 20, whatever it is, I guess 29. Yes. I'll watch 29 of them, and when the Outlaws are in the main event, I'll stop. They had a slightly better than average tag match. Not as good as what you want to see in a pay-per-view, but it was fine. Heat on the Usos when they hit an upside-down hip toss into the corner. So the Uso hit the turnbuckle very violently and then crashed down onto his head. Bad times. The Heat was uneventful. The announcers were talking about old tag teams from Minnesota. Fans were chanting for CM Punk. And finally there was a hot tag and a dive, and all four guys got involved in the finish. And then an Uso super kicked Road Dogg off the apron, and Billy schoolboyed him and pinned him to win.
So, according to Gregory here, check the new network frequently asked questions. No Raw and SmackDown replays. Luckily, they're free on Hulu. I think they're free on Hulu. Or is it Hulu Plus?
No, it's free.
Is it free? Plus. Okay, because I got Hulu Plus. So
that is amazing to put that up there.
Tonight?
13 hours before the network launches.
Yeah. Good time to change that.
Oh, it's 9 East Coast, so it's 10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
WWE Network app, according to his male kid here, is streaming in 1080p. At least it's advertised streaming in 1080p on the PlayStation. They claim, they flat out said 720 at the announcement in Vegas, so maybe that's been changed as well.
Probably just to cover their butts, because I'm sure not everybody's going to get this.
Well, that's true, but there should still be a buffer.
Sure.
I mean, you should say 1080p, and if your internet sucks, you may get
right
180p.
That's bad internet.
That's some dial-up.
Yeah.
That is no HD. Bad News Barrett reappeared. His podium would not rise. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. He just made a joke about how he had lowered himself to the people's level. His bad news here was that Daniel Bryan would lose and all the fans would turn on him.
He was right.
Well, the first part. Titus O'Neil versus Darren Young. It was not very good. There was a long abdominal stretch, and the announcers got bored and started making jokes about how long it had been since JBL picked up a tab.
They were trying. I got to give them that.
They did their best. Darren hit a neck breaker on the apron, which looked like it sucked for both dudes. Finally, Titus hit an enormous sit-out spine buster for the win. The low down, as D'Lo Brown called it.
Sky high.
It was low down. That was a frog splash, wasn't it?
Sure.
It was the Clash of the Titus.
That's what they call it here. Yeah. So anyway, it was a bad match. Dave mentioned they had a better match in the house show. I am sure that's true. Craig, anything to say about Darren Young's haircut?
He looked like Kid and or Play. Yeah, his haircut is ridiculous.
He had a shaved sides afro.
Yeah, he was going for the Chuck Liddell. He missed.
It's like he had... I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yes. Nice try. Try again.
Brian, anything to add about this match here?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, it sucked.
Bad News Barrett was back. Yes, 3 appearances in like an hour. As Bad News Barrett came out, JBL noted this was appropriate following the O'Neal-Young match.
Now, is that lift, is it a hydraulic lift?
Yes, it is.
So is it possible they ran out of air?
No, but
Okay.
you could have blown a seal. I just figured.
Aha! Blew a seal.
Yes, he blew.
Yeah.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Too much money spent on this network.
I would imagine it had scissor lift erectile dysfunction. Anyway, yeah, it's broke. Where's your drop board?
Can we move on, Vinny? Actually,
No, I think dig yourself out of this. Go ahead.
No. No, what is it?
And Brian's
Brian's feverishly looking. Thank you.
actually hit the wrong button.
Thank you.
still works.
There we go. This is the sound to make when the lid is dropped.
All right, we can go on now.
Thanks, Tom. So, Barrett came out. His podium still was not rising.
He blew you up.
Tom Likas joke.
I see.
Because if there's one thing that's a current joke, it's Tom Likas.
I was going to say.
So,
Is he still doing radio?
I think so,
Actually,
yes.
I think he's got an online-only site
Got a
last time I checked.
I know, our buddy Sean works in the radio business, and when whatever station it is in L.A. went under, he had like something like a 3 or 4 year guaranteed deal. So he just sat at home collecting giant paychecks.
All I know is his online site wasn't making money, and I was like,
He is probably drying his tears with $100 bills as we speak.
Yeah. So if you're wondering why Bad News Barrett was on the show like 8 times, here he mentioned that Hulk Hogan would be returning at WrestleMania, but the bad news was Hogan would be overshadowed by Barrett himself. So at this point...
so Barrett's the one who's going to run into Hogan's fist at WrestleMania.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
That's fine.
Great spot for him. You should be happy. They went up to the experts panel of Mark Henry, Rey Mysterio, and The Miz. Henry said he had mentored the primetime players. He was proud to see them wrestling on pay-per-view and proud to see Titus get a big win, but he was not happy about the way O'Neal was behaving. This is the man who, a year ago, faked a retirement and attacked John Cena. Best match so far I've seen this year. Shield versus the Wyatts.
This was awesome.
The Shield came out, and then the Wyatts came out, and they're staring at each other, and the fans are chanting, "This is awesome." And then there was dueling chants, "Let's go Shield, let's go Wyatts." And they just stared at each other. And they got in the ring, continued to stare at each other. And Bray started screaming at Dean that he was the weak link, trying to get the Shield to fight amongst themselves. For a long time, it just became a game of, we'll get the heat on this one guy, where all 3 of them beat him up. And then when he tags out, whoever happens to be in the ring from that team is now the effective face in peril. They just took turns doing this formula over and over again. Finally, Rollins made a giant fiery comeback. Harper tried to hit him with a German superplex, but he landed on his feet, hit 3 or 4 giant high-flying moves, firing up. The crowd was going crazy for him. Then they cut him off, and they really got the heat on him. Worked him over for a long time. A lot of close-ups of Roman Reigns in the apron, simmering, waiting to get in and kick some ass, and then finally he did. Broke down into a 6-way with everyone hitting giant moves and brawling all over the place. Bray and Ambrose brawled through the crowd, and 2 or 3 minutes later, Bray returned and Ambrose did not. So now, of course, the Wyatts had the numbers advantage. They quickly attacked Seth and chokeslammed him through the Spanish announce table. So now it was 3-on-1 of them against Reigns. Worked him over for a while. Bray was about to hit Sister Abigail when he powered out of it. Hit Superman punches on everybody. Was about to spear Bray to death. Harper stepped in the way to take the bullet, but then when Roman stood up, Wyatt hit him with a back elbow, and then Sister Abigail for the pin. So the big story here is that for more than a year, the Shield had never, ever found themselves outnumbered, and now the Shield had beaten them at their own game.
The Wyatts.
And Wyatts had beaten them at their own game. I blew my own line. Just an awesome match. Crowd loved it. Was totally into everybody. Everybody got over huge. A roaring success.
It's not every day that you have a match that you're really excited about and that you get everyone else excited about. And then they do the match and it delivers.
Surpasses.
Well, I expected it to be really good. But this was awesome. Fans chanting, "This is awesome," before they even got in the ring, essentially. And as noted, Great little match. This was a match where I knew Batista was in trouble. I figured he was in trouble going in. But as soon as they were about halfway through this match, I thought, man, this poor guy, he's doomed now. So the finish, Roman Reigns getting pinned. I didn't know this, but apparently in the betting, the odds, the odds on favorite to get beaten was Dean. And if you would have asked me going in, I would have said, well, you got to pin Roman Reigns. Because, number one, Roman's turning, so it doesn't matter. So you can beat him here, and then Dean Ambrose gets off, he goes nuts on him. It's your fault, blah, blah, blah. Even though Reigns successfully fought off 3 men for like 5 minutes before he finally got beaten. So Dean gets on him, blah, blah, blah. And then when you do the rematch, which they're going to do, I'm sure the Wyatts are going to win again. And probably Dean will screw something up, and Roman will get pinned or something like that. And then you do the big turn. And once the dude turns, it doesn't matter if he did a job here. This was great booking. This was a great match. Fans loved every single moment of this match. And I think it makes sense also to do a rematch on Raw. I know it doesn't even matter anymore because every pay-per-view is going to be on the network, so it's not like you're killing off the pay-per-views by doing the big angle on Raw instead of pay-per-view. But I think if you're going to do the Roman Reigns turn, it's better to do it on TV than on pay-per-view because you'll have 4 million people seeing it as opposed to 170,000. So this was awesome. Fans swayed to the music.
Yep.
It was good times.
So you expect they're going to have a rematch in the next 6 weeks?
They'll have a rematch tomorrow.
Think so?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This is a phenomenal match.
Good.
I'm
fine with that.
Yeah. That's why I was kind of disappointed. I just figured that this might be the end of it. But, yeah, they do have a lot of TV in between. But, yeah, this match was cool. It was so good. Early on, it wasn't much, and it just picked up. And by the end with Roman running wild, it was off the charts good. And I know it's hard to have bad 6-mans in WWE, but
impossible.
This one was far and away the best thing on this show, and as Vinny said, this year.
And the other note, and I guess this is kind of relevant if you're getting a rematch tomorrow, but if this is the last pay-per-view 6-man tag the Shield have, they went out on a fine note.
Yeah, that's fine.
They're going to go out on a fine note if they have a rematch.
True. It won't be on pay-per-view.
It'd probably be some kind of stip match, I would imagine.
They could have built this up. A lot of people were saying this match should have taken place at Mania, and they had plans.
Well, yeah.
They had plans.
Renee Young interviewed Christian backstage. He was mad at her for asking about his losing streak. He said he would win the chamber match. AJ came out for a promo. There were very loud chants for CM Punk, although they faded away quickly. She was making fun of Naomi for breaking her face. And those were her exact words. When Cameron came out, she did the entire Funkadactyl's entrance by herself. And then we had a match. It was Cameron versus AJ. We have talked many times about the cartoonist features of Naomi's body. And for obvious reasons. But let it be said that Cameron in her hot pants was also good news.
This whole match was good news.
No.
Sure it was.
You're wrong, Brian.
No, this match was great.
What? By the way, the glee on your face when you saw Cameron on screen, it was something to be.
Yeah,
to
I'm
behold.
a big Cameron fan.
You can tell.
I know the glee was because, well, that, but also Cameron comes down to the ring and her and Naomi have their entrance that they always do together.
Yes.
And so it's choreographed.
Right.
They dance in unison.
Sure.
And then they skip in unison.
Uh-huh.
And then they jump up on the apron in unison. And then
Right.
they do the butt thing in unison.
And you wish you were there.
But Naomi's not there.
Right.
So Cameron
You wanted to
still
take her
did
spot.
the exact same entrance with the butt thing with an invisible partner.
Sure.
Just thought that was hilarious. You know?
Sure.
Cameron wasn't a dancer, everybody. So she's been taught like one dance. And so when her partner is not there, she still goes out and does the exact same dance as if her partner is there.
Okay.
I was just dying. That was awesome.
Big fan of Cameron.
I'm a big fan of Cameron.
The glee on your face. is
Yeah.
Great.
Full of joy.
So they had a crappy match.
Full of something.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, it sucked.
Listen, you geeks. I'm not going to lie and say this match was good. But I've seen so many bad women's matches that per women's match standards, especially involving Cameron, this match was fine.
This was one of Cameron's better matches.
This match was fine.
So they go outside, and I think Tamina was trying to kick Cameron, but she kicked AJ
Yeah, that was a spot.
really hard.
That was the spot.
It looked like she did it on purpose. It doesn't look like it was a.
So she
fake.
tried to kick Cameron as hard as she could,
No,
but Cameron luckily fell out of the way.
It didn't
and
look
AJ
like
legit took the shot.
It didn't look like. It looked like she was supposed to hit AJ, but it didn't look like she tried to hit Cameron.
By the way, I got to digress for a second. For all of you idiots on the board who are in this big argument about legit badass, the comment legit badass on Impact. If I hear one more of you numbskulls going on and on about the badass part, I'm going to shut the board down. It's not badass that we're fixated on here. It's legit.
Like Ming or Steve Williams.
He's a legit badass.
Yeah.
They're all supposed to fucking be legit.
Sure.
And then someone is like, well, Brian, AJ in storyline is a legit crazy person. No, you know what? When she goes out there, they don't call her a legit crazy person. They call her a crazy person. They don't call someone a legit mailman. They call him a mailman. If your character is a mailman, they just say what you are. They don't classify anyone as a legit something, as if to indicate that all the other people are illegitimate.
Right. They wouldn't call Randy Orton a legit sports entertainer.
They wouldn't say, like, maybe they'd say, I don't know what they'd say. Stupid argument. Stop saying something is legit in pro wrestling. It's all supposed to be legit. And this match was legit great.
So
You're
after
legit wrong.
Cameron may or may not have
You're a
accidentally
legit
kicked
idiot.
AJ in the face, they rolled AJ in. Cameron tried to pin her. Tamina put AJ's foot on the ropes. Then she yanked Cameron out of the ring and attacked her for the DQ. I thought at the time that she had actually, pardon me, Brian, legit injured AJ. And
that's fine when you're talking, when you're reporting on wrestling, to say she may have been legit killed.
Yes. So
But they're not going to say on commentary, she legit hit her.
Yes. All the other hitting has been fake.
Right.
So, I thought AJ was injured, and so they called an audible for this DQ thing. But AJ got up. She was holding her mouth, but she was not bleeding, and all her teeth were in.
I was legit bored.
Can verify that. Bad news, Barrett returned. He blamed the idiots in Minnesota, his words, everyone, not mine, for breaking his podium so it no longer went up and down. He plugged the network, but said everyone was going to be so overwhelmed, adults would lose their jobs, kids would stop going to school. I was trying to figure out how any of this was bad news. Nobody would have to take the time to take the garbage out anymore. Their houses would be infested by rats, and then they would be condemned, and everyone would be homeless.
He did a hell of a job with this.
And JBL, in his best line of all time, I will not accept an argument on this, simply asked, what's wrong with rats moving in?
That's a good one.
That was a great one. We had a commercial for the toys with Santino and Emma and the Matadors and Torito, and finally Khali declared. Craig, would you like to declare this? Your Khali impersonation is much better than mine.
Huh? I don't even know what he said.
That was pretty good right there.
He said, okay, time to play now.
Yeah.
Craig did it much better live.
I forgotten what he had said because this was dumb.
Well, speaking of dumb things, let's talk about Batista.
Dumb?
Well, he's not dumb. But this failed.
Epic.
Batista versus Alberto Del Rio.
What did anyone expect?
Not this.
Did you watch the lead up to this match?
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the
That's
fan
true.
reaction. And I guess it's newsworthy and notable that the fans absolutely hated Batista. They loved Del Rio at first, and then it became clear they loved everyone who was not Dave. Dave was the most hated person in Minnesota tonight. They booed him. They cheered for Del Rio. They cheered for Daniel Bryan. They cheered for CM Punk, Chris Jericho, RVD, Brock Lesnar.
Some guy named Boring.
Some guy named Boring. Some guy named Boo-tista.
That's right.
This was chanted.
Bautista ended up the #1 trending term on Twitter for a while tonight.
Bautista. Now, this is all bad news anyway. Here's what I think is the worst news. Dave Bautista, in his first high-profile singles match since returning, looked goddamn horrible. He looked old. He looked broken. He looked blown up.
Harry.
He was hairy. He had this grandfather in his 40s had shoes with pink highlights and blue soles. He couldn't do anything. This is appalling. Dave Bautista at Elimination Chamber looked older than Ric Flair ever has. So Del Rio did what he could with the guy. I don't know if he actually got hurt or not. I kind of hope so, because that would at least be an excuse. But Del Rio came out. He had a tracksuit on, one crutch, a neck brace over his scarf. He claimed he was too injured by Dave's attack on Raw to compete. Then he started whacking Dave with a crutch and tore off his tracksuit, and he had his gear underneath. So, like I say, I'm hoping that somewhere in here he actually, and this may sound terrible to say, I hope he actually hurt Dave with a crutch, because then Dave has an excuse for his performance. But my God, Dave looked bad.
Wow. What a burial of poor Big Dave.
I do feel bad for Big Dave.
He's 45 years old.
Uh-huh.
He's had a couple of house show matches since coming back. The fans turned on him with a vengeance.
Can't even say turned. That would mean they give him a chance.
Yeah.
He was public enemy number one before he ever set foot in this down the aisle. So there was a point where Dave tried a powerbomb and Del Rio escaped, and I thought, my God, he should have just ended it right there for Dave's safety and sake. I felt bad for Dave. He was going to get hurt worse. And finally, he hit another powerbomb for the win. And the thing ended with him being booed out of the building, looking broken, old, blown up, and just hated. And I felt so bad for him. This sucked.
Well, I still can't get over, before the match started, they showed the video recap of this feud. And it was just Batista beating up Alberto Del Rio 65 different ways. And I remember before, like long before this match took place, every time I recapped a show that involved Big Dave Batista, I asked the same question: who in the world could possibly want to see this match? So that's how they set this poor guy up. So out he comes, and he's hated. And so, of course, they love Del Rio because they hate Big Dave. But he's 45. He's had a few matches. I don't know what everybody was expecting. It was a bad match, don't get me wrong. But, I don't know. Is it really that bad, Vinny?
I thought Dave looked awful.
It was pretty
I thought
bad.
Dave looked in no condition to perform.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. But
I don't mean that as a code.
I do.
I mean physical condition.
I do think that based on the main event chamber finish, when Kane, of all people, cost Daniel Bryan the match and not Hunter, that they may in fact have decided that it's going to be Big Dave, Randy Orton, and Daniel Bryan in a three-way at Mania, which will be a vast improvement.
It was all downhill after he won the Rumble, because everybody, I don't know who, but everybody in that building thought Daniel Bryan was going to be number 30. Dave ended up winning the thing. He isn't Daniel Bryan. Newsflash. So, yeah, he's hated automatically. And then he gets out there and he kind of S's the bed in the ring. And he wore shooter shoes with...
He S's the bed, everybody.
Yes.
Craig is a man of the Lord.
Craig's
I don't
Hispanic
curse.
impersonation.
I don't curse. And then he... and then he shows up with pink and teal trimmed shooter boots.
Yeah, they were sweet.
It's a douchebag.
Why are you guys making fun of Batista's ring gear? Have you seen his street clothes? He's understated in the ring.
Okay.
That's actually a good point.
That's fair. And I said, apparently he's lost his razor, and Brian said, oh, he's turning heel.
Yeah, he's hairy.
Oh, so
Hairy
Hello,
men are
where have
evil,
you been
Brian.
for the last 2 decades?
really?
Yeah. Hairy men are heels.
Is that right?
Smooth men are baby faces.
Randy Orton.
Yeah. When's the last time you saw Randy Orton without facial hair? You dumbass.
He had
Oh,
chest,
yeah, back when he was a baby face.
he had chest hair.
That's what I thought.
Chest hair.
I'm not talking about chest hair.
Oh, my God.
By the
They're
way,
a heel with me when they have chest hair and grease on.
That's right. Nick Ellen.
if you thought I was lame for making a Tom Likas joke in 2014, Michael Cole made a NAFTA joke.
That's right.
The North American Free Trade Agreement.
He had to apologize for something tonight. What was it that he said Naomi had surgery?
He said Naomi needed surgery and later corrected himself on Twitter saying she did not need surgery.
I'm wondering if she's coming back tomorrow. Because, I don't think she's coming back tomorrow. I just remember when the thing with Naomi first happened, like the first report I got was, she's all right. And then the second report I got was, she's all right. And then the next day they announced she nearly lost her eye and has a cracked orbital bone. She'll be out till after WrestleMania. And I was like, really? I mean, maybe that's true. But, I mean, when I watched the thing tonight, I just thought, she's coming out tomorrow. She's going to come out tomorrow and win the title from AJ on Raw. But we'll see. She was supposed to win it at Mania.
So she's going to be one of those surprise,
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge anybody, and then here comes Naomi.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen tonight, but it was Cameron.
Gotcha.
Which is fine.
Because you're such a fan.
Cameron would have been there whether Naomi was there or not, Craig. You know this. Where are we?
Main event.
Yeah.
So was the Elimination Chamber. For the record, Randy Orton, John Cena, Sheamus, Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, and Christian. Sheamus and Cesaro started. Had a very physical 5-minute brawl. A lot of very safe bumps on the grate, or at least as safe as it can be done. And then Cesaro put an end to all of that. He had a foot stomp off the middle rope on a Sheamus who was lying on the grate. Bad times. They brawled over in a Cena's corner, and Cena from inside his pod waved at them. Very friendly man. Bryan was next in, made an amazing comeback, kicked the hell out of both guys. They brawled out into the grate, and Bryan got whipped shoulder first through the plastic of his own empty pod. I figured that was going to eliminate him for the next 10 minutes of the match, and then he was back before Christian even got in. So Christian came in, started working over Bryan's arm and shoulder. I think somewhere in here, Cesaro became the first guy in the match to actually attempt a pin. He picked up the loose plastic from Bryan's pod, gave it to Sheamus, and then hit an uppercut into the plastic. Sounds ludicrous. Looked cool. They did a bunch of stuff. Cena was the next guy in. Really nothing much happened until finally Orton got in, and then things got really good for a while.
This was a very average match until all the guys were in. Then it became a very great match.
Yeah, there was really no drama, no tension, no big teases, and not that many big moves in the first, I guess it would be 20 minutes of the match.
It tells you something when John Cena's in a pod and he's getting the Let's Go Cena, Cena Sucks dueling chant.
Because there's nothing else going on in the ring worth paying much attention to. So Orton got in, and the match kicked up several notches.
Think about that.
Yeah. Even though as soon as his pod came in, everyone started chanting boring at him. That was funny. So he beat up everyone for a little bit, but then he missed a punt on Bryan. He turned around and found all 5 men staring him down. He then went back into his pod to hide and slammed the door shut, which worked for a while, but then Sheamus knocked the glass down with a bro kick.
At which point, everyone chanted, "Pussy!"
The fans were chanting "pussy" while Orton was hiding in his pod.
Yeah.
And there was an awesome spot where Cesaro grabbed Christian for the giant swing, but then Cena hits Cesaro with a body press. So Cena knocks Cesaro backwards, and this in turn launches Christian in a slingshot into the corner. That was great. Oh, God, my notes for this are long. They did a bunch of stuff. Sheamus got eliminated. Christian eliminated Sheamus with a frog splash off the pod. Bryan eliminated Christian with a knee strike almost immediately after that.
Vince is doing a hell of a job expressing the excitement of this particular battle here.
Yep. Cesaro was eliminated, although I've completely forgotten how. Oh, Cena
let me take over these notes here.
Go for it.
So Sheamus kicked the pod and killed Randy Orton. Did we get to that?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So Cena went for an FU, and Cesaro tossed him outside, and then proceeded to giant swing Randy Orton. I believe he swung him 20 times, but somehow the fans counted, I think, to 29.
The fans were counting one revolution for about every 3/4 of a turn.
Sure.
1/2 to 3/4, somewhere in there.
And then they all of a sudden, at about number 21, had a complete inability to all count at the same time.
And you found how high wrestling fans can count.
21 is the answer for all of you wondering. So everybody hit a big move. Christian went up top, pinned Sheamus with the big splash off the pod. Trainers came out to tend to Sheamus. Bryan killed Christian with the knee. Trainers came out to check on Christian. That's when I knew something's coming. I knew that actually long before because it was obvious. It's obvious someone was coming in to get Cena. So we had 4 guys left. Orton, Bryan, Cesaro, and Cena. So Cesaro did make it to the final 4 out of the original 6. That's good, right? He ran wild. Cena Hurricane Ron'd him and then gave him an FU onto the metal, put him in the STFU, and submitted him. So Cena then puts the STFU on Orton, and in a great pay-per-view moment, Bray's music hits, the lights go out, and Michael Cole says, and I quote, "Who?" Because he was baffled at who might be coming out when the lights went out and the Wyatt music played? So the answer to this question is the Wyatts came out. They destroyed John Cena. Bray gave him the Sister Abigail. The fans chanted, "Thank you, Wyatts." Orton pinned Cena. Kane then came down because we needed 4 men to interfere in the Elimination Chamber this year. He sent the Wyatts to the back. Bryan hit him with the knee off the top of the cage. People are chanting for Daniel Bryan. He gave Orton a back superplex off the top, hit the flying knee. Kane pulled the ref out of the ring. So Bryan kicks Kane, gets distracted. Orton hits the RKO. Bryan kicks out. Place is going nuts with yes chants. Bryan hits a small package, near fall, hits a kick, near fall. Kane then attacks him again, and Orton hits the RKO for the pinfall. And as noted, they cut to the crowd. There's all of these irate fans, bored fans, sad fans, tired fans, hungry fans. I was amazed at how many fans they found that weren't in a good mood.
The best description of these fans is melancholy.
They were melancholy.
They were just like, what are you going to do?
They were down.
Yeah.
They were bummed. Bummed may be too strong.
Are there a lot of fans in this country that thought for sure that Daniel Bryan was winning tonight? Maybe that's the problem.
They're
Well,
losing
clearly,
faith.
there are a lot in Minnesota.
They think like I don't know. I mean, is it not clear to everybody in the world that Daniel Bryan is winning the title like sometime in the next 3 months?
You're thinking like
I'm watching the show?
Well, no.
I mean, they're telling the story and it's patently obvious.
You know that at some point Daniel Bryan's going to
I don't know that, but when I watch the television, that's the conclusion I come to.
Sure.
So I think that there is a lot less vitriol than there was after the Royal Rumble. I will say that.
I guess they're used to being punished. You know? Fans know that this wasn't going to be the night that he was going to win because
apparently all those fans in the building thought so, especially the guy that threw his popcorn over the
one guy.
Well, and all the melancholy fans.
All right.
What are you going to watch?
What am I going to watch?
On the network.
What am I going to watch on the network?
Yeah. I know you're going to be up all night. What are you going to watch?
Oh, yeah. 6 a.m. I'm going to be at my computer. Actually, I'm going to be at work. So I will duck into the...
So you'll be ordering it at 6 a.m.
I'll duck into the head, and I'll order up the network, and I'll watch Nitro.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's what you're going to watch, Nitro?
Really? That's the one program you're going to watch is Nitro?
Probably not.
Okay.
Vinny, wait till you come up here, and that big-ass TV right there is showing Thunder. We're going to need to be doing some Thunder versus Impact comparisons back and forth.
Hey, I laughed at Thunder. I get mad at Impact.
Well, maybe you would have got mad at Thunder back then, too.
I didn't.
Well, we'll see how you...
You should have.
You're the only one.
Yeah, you really should have been angry.
How could you be mad at Don Harris saying that his head might fall off? And it was sad. Can't be mad at that.
This fella Plethora here on Twitter is just very upset still. Is the problem, he says, is Orton beating Bryan again.
Well, yeah, and this is the same thing I said when...
Earth to everybody!
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan is going to pin Randy Orton for the championship in the end. Relax!
Yes.
Right, but Brian?
Yes?
The point is, we have seen Orton cheat to beat Daniel Bryan about 4,700 times.
Yes.
It's not new. It's a rerun.
I realize
sucks.
Why was it okay when Ric Flair, back in the day, would have the Horseman run in every one of his matches, and this one's different?
Because now there's Twitter.
I see.
You would have heard the same thing on the 1980s version of Twitter, which unfortunately or luckily for NWA was postal mail.
I had friends back in the day that just absolutely hated Ric Flair because the Horseman ran in it every time.
Every time.
And they that was the reaction they were looking for, and they got it. But Ric Flair was awesome.
This person thinks it's going to be Bryan Kane at Mania. They would not possibly do something so stupid.
No.
It's going to be Bryan Kane on Raw, I'm sure. It'd probably be the storyline is if Bryan can somehow beat Kane or something like that, he ends up in a three-way or something.
What if
Vince comes back and puts him in the three-way?
What if they do Hunter versus Bryan at Mania, and if he beats Hunter, he gets it?
Well, that's what I thought they were going to do, but Hunter made no appearance here. It's all about Kane.
No, I mean at Mania. What if Bryan works twice?
So Hunter's going to work like in the opener? Let's think about this
Not
for a
the
second.
opener, but maybe
It's a 4-hour show. They got time to put him in
Maybe
there somewhere.
third?
Maybe even right before the main event.
The idea that Hunter is going to
Actually, they
work
could.
any time before the semi-main or the main,
They could do that.
I find impossible to believe.
They could do Hunter versus Bryan, and then immediately go to the main
Go
event.
to the three-way.
Yeah.
They could totally do that.
I don't think you're going to see it. We'll see.
Might not, but they could.
We'll see. I don't anticipate that happening, but you never know. Never know. Well, anything else? Randy liked grumpy Vinny V tonight.
I'm in a much better mood than I was after Impact.
We had pizza tonight. How
We
was
did
he
have
grumpy?
pizza.
I don't know what his problem is.
I didn't take some home, by the way. I did not get my money's worth in that pizza.
Okay. We'll talk to Brian.
All right.
You didn't get your money's worth.
I got 3 slices of pizza and 3 chicken wings for $20.
Dude, there's plenty of it.
All right, I'll take more.
Wait a minute. We chipped in $20 as well.
Yeah.
It was only 45.
No, and you tipped the guy $5.
So there's 50.
And I put it all on my card. Service fee. Don't ask me.
I will let
You're the one
Craig-
that you guys gave me the money. I didn't request anything.
That's actually a point.
You're throwing money at me and then being angry at how much I got.
Take it up with this man.
Yeah.
I'm on your side here.
All right.
I'm just saying I'm going to take some home. That's all.
Yeah, I guess the stripper doesn't give back ones. So.
What?
Yeah, you're a stripper. Okay.
What?
First time I had to turn down Craig right there.
Huh.
Turn me back up. My God.
This guy doesn't believe Brian's going to beat Orton in the end. He thinks he's comparing it to the NWO storyline.
No. That would be ludicrous.
2014. NWO's been gone for a decade or more.
Well, let's talk about Raw.
All right.
Show opened with the Hulkster making his big return.
Yeah.
Announcers and all the fans gave him a standing ovation. Hulk Hogan, a man who has told a fib or two in his life, told a great one when he explained this was the turning point of his career.
You don't believe it?
I don't believe that at all. He said he was home. He screwed up a line about the universe and the network, but managed to cover it up. I don't think anyone cared.
But everybody noticed.
I guess they did. He plugged the stars of the network, including Bruno Sammartino, who I don't think is actually on there at all, Michaels, Austin, and Rock. Announced himself as the host of WrestleMania 30, and that was it.
Say Bruno's not on the network?
I don't think so.
He's on the network. He's all over the network.
All right.
I've seen Bruno on the network like 6 times today alone.
I was looking at the shows they had. I didn't think he was on any of them. All right. So yeah, it was a short promo, but I would much rather have a short promo than the usual 20 minutes of blathering on about nothing. The announcers plugged the network. Not one time did they mention any technical problems. Plugged it for a long time. I actually checked right before I left the house, and no, it is still not working on my 360. Alberto Del Rio versus Dave Bautista in a rematch the world was begging for. My only explanation is they knew how crappy the match at the pay-per-view was, and they knew they could do better. And they did. Dave looked much better here than he did in the pay-per-view. This also means he was not hurt, so he has no excuse for that performance. That being said, everyone still hated him. Dave himself pointed to a Boo Tista sign. And so Dave hits a spine buster and is about to get the win, and out comes Randy Orton to distract him. And then Del Rio hits a schoolboy, and Del Rio pinned him. I found this a much bigger deal than Jack Swagger losing on SmackDown.
At least somebody agrees with me. This pin, and not only was it a pin, but he pinned him, no music, boom, we just move on. And then I ranted about this all day yesterday. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Are they going to, I don't know. Let's think
about this for a second.
Let's see where this goes here. But this to me was just a waste of time.
They've got some weeks to go from this, but the top contender to the World Championship at WrestleMania just lost to Alberto Del Rio in the opener of Raw.
Yes, that's what happened.
That seems dumb. So the fans hated Dave.
Let's see if Batista mentioned anything about this in the SmackDown spoilers when he came out.
They cheered Orton at first, A, because he came out, and B, because he was not Dave. But then they started to boo him. Orton pointed out that all the fans hated Dave. He probably regretted coming back. Fans decided they hated both men, wanted to see CM Punk instead. Dave said that he was happy he came back. He loved this business. He loved to hear the fans' reactions. But he said, if they cheer me, I'm going to cheer them. And if they boo me, I'm going to boo them. So now we have two heels fighting for the world title at WrestleMania.
All right. So first off, Cubs here says Bruno is on some of the MSG cards in the vault. So there you go. All right. This is the SmackDown spoilers here. It says that Batista started the show, mixed boos and cheers. He started off by saying, I love the business and the company. Said he did not come back to be liked. Huge CM Punk chant broke out. He said, you don't have to support him, but you got to deal with it. He said it is a fact that he can destroy anyone they put in front of him. They did a small Daniel Bryan chant. He asked, what the hell happened to the business, the real men, the attitude? Yes chant broke out. He said if the fans honestly think their heroes are as good as him, they need to get out of their fantasy world and get out of his. He's going to destroy all of our heroes on his way to WrestleMania. He'll become the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. So yes, no mention of Randy Orton screwing him. No mention of Alberto Del Rio pinning him. They've just moved on.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, why'd you bother? Why did you bother having Alberto Del Rio pin Dave Batista? Especially when you immediately tried to pretend it didn't happen by not even playing his music and having him just vanish. Infuriating. It's infuriating.
Okay, this is annoying. As you were ranting, I'm watching here. It's the WrestleMania Rewind, showing the main event of WrestleMania 1, Orndorff and Piper versus Hogan and Mr. T. Meanwhile, on the bottom are scrolling tweets.
Yeah, live tweeting, Vinny.
I don't want to see this.
Come on, tweet something.
No. Paul Orndorff used to be jacked up.
That's what a guy said.
I take it back.
See, aren't you glad they're doing the live tweets there? Oh, dear God. Speaking of tweets, this person here says, three-way, Orton, Batista, Del Rio. Dear God, no. Actually, nothing could really be worse than Orton and Batista, so you may as well.
You may at least then you have two guys who could do stuff. And Dave would stand there and pose. Cesaro wrestled Big E. This may have been the exact same match Big E had with Jack Swagger the night before. He repeated many of the same spots. It was funny because there would be long stretches of this match where they'd be on different pages and it wasn't terribly good and it was kind of sloppy. And then one or the other of them would hit a ridiculous, freaky power move. And it'd be great. And then it would go back to the sloppiness. It was a very up and down match. There was the time Big E tried to leapfrog and Cesaro grabbed him and turned it into a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. And then Big E grabbed him and press slammed him. Just two strong dudes. Cesaro hitting the deadlift gut-wrench suplex. And then hitting the enormous Big E with a giant pop-up uppercut. And finally, Cesaro hit the giant swing. Took him a couple of tries, but he hit the swing. And he tosses Big E aside. And Jack Swagger jumps in the ring and attacks him for the DQ. He cost his partner the match when he appeared to have things won. Keep that in mind. That's important for later. So Cesaro was baffled. Zeb was baffled. They were also both pissed. Swagger tried to apologize. Big E attacked, and he ended up eating the neutralizer from Cesaro. And the real Americans all left together, and Cesaro put his hand on Swagger's shoulder, and he seemed to be ready to move on with things.
That's never good.
No, it's not. Cena came out for a promo, talked about Hogan, talked about the network.
All this network talk on the day that it didn't work. I was like, this is just... I understand that you got to try to get the thing over like it's a big deal, but they were doing it in front of a crowd of people that probably been trying all goddamn day long to get the network, and it wasn't working for them.
That may happen, yeah.
They're talking about how great it is. It's kind of a lackluster reaction right there. And who can blame them?
It's been a lackluster product so far. Frankly, for me. It's working much better for you.
It's working great, right? The live feed works great.
Yeah. So he called out the Wyatts again. He also dropped a line in here about how he did not know how the Wyatts could have interfered since the cage door was supposed to have been locked. Wyatts came out. They had a verbal battle for a while, and then Cena dared them to all come fight him, and they obliged. So they attacked him, and there was one of them and three of him, or one of him and three of them. It was more entertaining the other way. But they beat him up, and he sold a leg injury, quite convincingly, I might add. And he eventually was stretchered out of the ring. So John Cena, questionable for WrestleMania.
That's right. Shoot injury, but they had the stretcher set up before he went out there.
Oh.
Just in case, Was not a shoot injury. By the way, speaking of the network, the new stuff, all of the current stuff that's HD, 1080p. When I went down there, they said 720, and I was very, not happy with that. But that's full HD, 1080p right there. Looks awesome. Not WrestleMania 1, obviously, but all the new stuff looks awesome.
Christian versus Sheamus. Now, when you're a rant at the end of the SmackDown review, didn't you say Christian beat Sheamus somewhere?
Yeah, he beat him at the chamber. He
In the chamber, I see.
splashed him off the top of the cage.
I see. Because Sheamus won here. From your rant, I had assumed that Christian had won on SmackDown. Or, won on Raw. So, it had another good match. Sheamus used a cloverleaf, which should have been his finish for the past 5 years. And finish was great as Christian dodged one bro kick, jumped up on the ropes, jumped off them, and jumped right into his second bro kick. Looked like his face got kicked off. It was awesome. And Sheamus pinned him. Showed a clip from the pre-show of Daniel Bryan confronting the Helmsleys. He challenged Hunter to a match at Mania. Hunter laughed him off, said he would try to find Bryan a spot on the card. That was a great line. Steph said Bryan could take his aggression out on the man who deserved it, and that was Kane.
I need to, I don't have time to do it all right now. Maybe somebody who's got some spare time can tweet in. But go back over the last 15 WrestleManias and give me Hunter's win-loss record at WrestleMania. Because now I will admit that I was the way that Stephanie talked down at Daniel Bryan in this segment, I just saw it was man, they made him look like a geek. They didn't need to do that, but they can't help themselves. But the Hunter stuff, where Hunter's like, I'll find you a match, the idea of you, facing me at WrestleMania, come on now, ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. When you watch this, at least me, maybe I'm in the minority here, but to me, it's patently obvious that Daniel Bryan is going to pin Triple H at WrestleMania clean in the middle with his knee. And there's a lot of people listening to this right now, and I know this because they're about to come out en masse on Twitter, and I'm going to read about it on the board. Who are going to tell me I'm such an idiot. There's no way they're sure that Triple H is going to pedigree Bryan at WrestleMania. I want somebody to go through and give me Hunter's win-loss record at WrestleMania because I think you people are going to be surprised. Hunter
He's done lots of jobs.
is going to do the job in the middle of the ring to Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. Just wait. It's being set up to me so obviously here on this show. But a lot of people don't see it, and they don't trust it. And quite frankly, I don't blame you guys for not trusting it, but you got to trust me. Daniel Bryan's going to pin Triple H with the knee in the middle of the ring.
I remember once, I forget what the last year I went to the Hall of Fame was, but as we were leaving the Hall of Fame, some other guy was just ranting about how Triple H never put anyone over at WrestleMania. And I stopped and I listed like a half dozen guys who had beaten him at WrestleMania.
Actually, I just, it came through like quick.
Yeah.
8 and 9.
And I suspect of his last 10, he's probably won 2.
So there you go. 8 wins, 9 losses. 9 losses at WrestleMania in the last 17 WrestleManias. He's going to put the guy over, everybody.
Evolute99 here points out something I didn't notice. Something went wrong with the neutralizer, and Big E damn near landed on his head.
That kind of landed on his shoulder.
Yeah, looked very scary. So we had a Black History Month video for Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson. And all I can say is that it's about time we had another tag team called the Soul Patrol.
We could use a Soul Patrol.
We could use a Soul Patrol right about now. And they showed their championship win over the Wild Samoans for the tag belts. And that crowd was not big. I believe all these matches happened in Allentown. But my God, that reaction. They were so happy to see Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson beat the Samoans. It was awesome. Wrestling used to be great. Shield were bickering backstage. Ambrose said he'd been trying to explain himself for 24 hours, and if they didn't believe him, he was done. And he walked off. So Rollins and Reigns were talking about him when the Wyatt showed up. And we're now outnumbered, but that didn't stop Reigns from stepping up in their face. He challenged Bray to a singles match for later. Bray called him an interesting creature, and accepted. Had the experts at the pre-show desk. Ric Flair led the crowd in yes chants. Daniel Bryan versus Kane. The highlight here, at least for me, was when Bryan's throwing some kicks in the corner, and the ref pulls him off, and Bryan turns to him and very quietly and calmly says, "I have till 5, referee." That was awesome. I don't know if anyone else noticed it, but it was great. So Kane worked over his bad shoulder forever. Bryan made a great comeback. Kane has I was trying to think if he's ever had a better straight one-on-one singles match than this. He might have.
Kane?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure in his career he's had a better one-on-one match than this one.
We each once tried to list all the great Kane matches, and they all came up as like tag teams and elimination chambers and TLC matches. So regardless, it was one of Kane's better matches. And fans were going crazy for Bryan's comeback. He kicked out of a chokeslam, and shortly thereafter, he hit the knee strike for the win. So there you go. Kane vanquished. Then Bryan cut a promo. He called Triple H a coward repeatedly, said he was hiding behind his wife's skirt. He dared Hunter to listen to the fans and give them what they want. And really, as much as people think they want Bryan in the main event, he's probably better off wrestling Hunter and just staying way the hell away from that Orton-Batista mess. I don't want any part of that for him. Nothing good can come of that. Another lame Alexander Rusev promo. Summer Rae versus Emma. Every time JBL mentions that he is the general manager of NXT, I laugh. When was the last time he was seen on that show?
It is a good point, because
many months.
Every time a big decision needs to be made, it's Hunter.
Hunter is there.
I never even see JBL.
What are you managing?
It's a funny storyline, actually. By the way, this guy has a list of people that have lost to Triple H at Mania. Hunter has put over John Cena, Undertaker, Chris Benoit, Dave Batista, and Randy Orton, all at WrestleMania.
Undertaker 3 times. If you go back. Summer Rae versus Emma. Emma still has her NXT entrance with the biggest bubbles you ever saw. Enormous bubbles blowing. So, as noted, the dance is getting over with about 5 to 10% of the people. Most don't care. And match was fine. There was an Emma chant when she was fighting out of a chin lock. And then she blocked a high kick and turned it into the Emma lock for the win. New Age Outlaws versus the Usos again. There's no entrance for either team. Then the bell rang. Then Road Dogg politely asked the Usos to leave the ring so he could do his pre-match spiel. They politely obliged.
Very friendly guys.
They were. We want the fans to see their... I was laughing because if they said no, the fans would all boo because the fans want to see Road Dogg do his stuff. Then... Road Dogg did his stuff, and right when he was done, turned around and got super kicked, and the fans did, in fact, boo. So they were baby faces on this show. So they hit a super kick and a big dive, and one of the Usos hit a frog splash and with the mid-air cross chop included, and pinned him. So these guys are also trading wins, and this treadmill just continues to spin on.
I do like that you can have a tag team title match, and you get beaten, and then you get a rematch the next day, which you win, and then apparently you're going to have the match again, which you can then win or lose.
Yeah. They're doing a bit on the network about the Shockmaster, and all I can say is look at Sid's curly mullet. That is amazing.
It is amazing because this whole thing is amazing, actually. There goes the Shockmaster! Mm-hmm. Oh, his hat fell off.
It's more amazing that they thought, I mean, it's notorious because everything that could have gone wrong with this did. But think about if everything had gone right. It's still a fat guy in a fur vest with a glittery stormtrooper helmet.
Yeah.
What? That was their plan.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, how is he supposed to see out of that stupid thing anyway?
I don't know. As a fan, giving him a thumbs down.
Jody says the last time JBL was on NXT was when he reinstated Sami Zayn November 20th.
So 3 months. Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt. They had an epic 6-man tag the night before, and no one cared about this. Didn't help that there were just a lot of chin locks on the mat. Fans got bored, chanted for everyone who was not actually in it.
Yeah, let's have a fight between two guys where they get on the mat.
Yep.
And they grapple.
And it wasn't even good grappling. It was just, I mentioned the Bunkhouse Stampede show I watched before it went crazy. The opener was a TV title match between Nikita Koloff and Bobby Eaton. And they did like a 5-minute spot where Eaton had him in a hammerlock, and Nikita tried to escape. This hammerlock lasted longer than many Raw matches these days. It was so great. So awesome. Because Nikita was clearly in so much pain and wanted to get out of this so bad, and Eaton was working so hard to keep him in it. It was awesome. Then you turn on Raw, and it's Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt, and Bray grabs a chin lock, and they both just lie there. I realize not everyone can be Bobby Eaton, but still. So Roman's making his comeback, and the Wyatt's little entrance dealy airs, and JBL screams, "The hell?" And again, it's not quite as bad as when Michael Cole said, "Who is this?" But still. So Rowan and Harper appeared on the floor. Seth Rollins zoomed in out of nowhere, wiped them out with a giant flip dive. They killed him after a while, but then Ambrose finally ran down to even the odds. And then Ambrose ran into the ring and attacked Wyatt for the DQ. Just like Swagger had done earlier. For the second time in the show, somebody ran into the ring and attacked they cost their partner the match with a DQ. Twice in one show. So the brawl eventually separated. Shield was no dissension. And that was that.
They just had the Legends House commercial on the network. And this is going to be the worst television show of all time. Mark my words, everybody. I realized that I was not high on the idea of Total Divas, and it turned out to be a pretty entertaining show. But you do also have to remember that Total Divas was produced by the people at E! And it appears to me that Legends House is not produced by the people at E! It is a reality show produced by WWE. And from looking at the commercials, it looks like it's going to be either 30 or 60 minutes of nonstop WWE-style comedy involving old guys. That sounds bad. Have you seen the comedy on Raw?
I have.
Has anyone here not seen the comedy on Raw? Does anybody here think the comedy on Raw is any good? The comedy on Raw is bad 99 times out of 100. And they've created a reality show. They've produced it themselves. They've written this thing. I just think this one's going to go down in the Wrestle Crap record books. This is going to be one for the ages. You're going to have to watch it every week, Vinny.
I won't.
What are you talking about?
Put my foot down.
You can't do that.
I will see. Total Divas, it got better.
Yeah.
It was much worse than
I can't wait till season 2, March 16th, I believe.
You know what's funny is right before we sat down, they aired the Buddy Ray's Blow Away Diet promo. And someone on Twitter asked about it. Now they're playing it again.
Yeah.
So the main event was Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar coming out for a promo. They announced that the Helmsleys were not giving Brock a title match because they didn't want him to have one. So they don't want Brock to get a title shot. They don't want Bryan to get a title shot. They only want Dave to get a title shot. And that's it. So they said the Helmsleys had granted them an open contract. They could face anyone they wanted to for Mania, but that was not good enough for them, and so they were leaving. There would be WrestleMania without them. And then Undertaker came out, got the whole entrance. Place went nuts. His goatee was freshly dyed black. He got in the ring, and they had a very manly stare down. And Taker looked at the sign, and Brock nodded. He signed the contract, and he put the pen in Taker's chest in an insulting manner. Heyman offered Mr. Undertaker a chance to sign the contract, and then Taker grabbed Lesnar's hand that had the pen in it, slammed it into the contract, and signed. And he chokeslammed Lesnar through the table, and that was it. So, a lot of stuff happened in that show. That was Monday Night Raw.
Do you notice you can order with your Misa or Vaster card?
Is that on the blow-away diet?
Yeah.
I did not notice that.
Who in God's name came up with that idea? We've got this fat guy, Buddy Rose. Let's make a commercial. We'll what can we do? Let's have him pour flour on himself, and a fan will blow, and we'll call it the blow-away diet. Who comes up with this?
I don't know what to tell you.